The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
It is Tuesday, February 5th, 2019, again. My name is Sam Cedar. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Majority Report special news segment that we're doing. Live coverage of the 2019 delayed State of the Union address. And, sorry we're doing it. Very sorry.
Not
in
acceptable.
so many different ways. Joining us in studio, of course, Matt Leck, Jamie Peck, Brendan Finn, Michael Brooks, and also joining us today, very exciting, Katherine Krueger, the managing editor of Splinter News, is here with us.
Hello.
Happy
to be here.
Here we go.
Welcome.
Oh, nice. There we go.
Getting up-to-date budget
Yeah, you are.
I think we may have mentioned earlier today, too, that Alex Perrine would be with us. And I forgot to, I thought that I had asked him, and I did for the original one. And then when that got canceled, I forgot to follow up.
Were you testing to see if he watches the show?
And I was testing to see if he watches the show. And apparently not. Or he just really didn't want to do this and pretends he's not watching the show, so he didn't have to do this. But he may actually make it in a little bit later.
Oh, is he in touch?
Yeah, we're in touch, and highly unlikely. But so, Katherine, let's start with you. What are you anticipating tonight?
Well, I was really, really hopeful that this would never happen.
Here, I just bend that. Yeah.
Am I good?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I don't know why we did that upside down, but go ahead.
So yeah, I'm happy to be here, but I'm unhappy that this event is happening. We've heard that there won't be a national emergency, so I assume it'll just be boring top to bottom.
All right. Well, here's the thing that we need to figure out beforehand, only for the sake of drinking. Now, Brendan has one prediction, which I think is actually a great prediction. Brendan, do you want to just pop up and say what your prediction is? Because we're all thinking this is going to be incredibly boring because it's a scripted thing, and Brendan comes in and drops this bomb.
I hope he goes off script.
No, you didn't say I hope.
No,
you
I
said
think you said you thought
he's going to.
He would.
I think he will.
We all hope he does.
There's a report from the New York Times, which I imagine, I only read the headline, but it was Haberman, I guess, and that he was upset that he wasn't digging in hard enough against Democrats. His speech.
Maggie, I'm going to go off script.
There absolutely will be a point where every political journalist is tweeting, he's off the teleprompter right now. He's not. His eyes are moving too fast. So I can't wait for it.
You want to know my prediction?
Well, yes.
I
Good,
just
Jamie.
want to say
Jamie, what is it?
He's not going to pull his dick out on stage, and all the pundits are going to be like, today is the day that Donald Trump became president.
Here's my prediction. It's Q Day, and he's going to arrest everyone in the chamber.
You're talking now.
Like,
oh, hell yeah.
Like, gentlemen,
Yeah.
bring out the cups.
Now
It's
wait a
time.
second. Let me just address
Ruth
Jamie's
Bader
prediction.
Ginsburg gets
Here's the
carted
problem
off.
with your prediction. We don't know. He's behind a a podium
Lectern,
He
perhaps?
could be as soon as he get up there, he could, if
Well,
all we know.
I mean, that implies he would do it so that we could see it, you know?
Oh, okay.
Hey, Mike.
If
Hey,
a
Mike,
hog
they
comes
can't
out
see it.
behind a podium, does it really count?
He doesn't seem like a covert public masturbator.
Yeah, no.
or flasher.
What if
no.
it was
No.
just a mess with Mike Pence? Like, hey, Mike, it's out. They can't see it. You
do?
can. Hey, Mike, you like what you see? You like it? I just would
Very
like to
possible.
say,
Here is, though, I would say this, that I do think to the extent that there's any value in this, and I'm actually excited to hear Stacey Abrams speak afterwards, because I think we're going to get a sense of just sort of like how how prominent she's going to be in the future of the Democratic Party. But what is interesting about this speech is that it gives us insight into what they think they want to do for the next 2 years, right? Like, it's quite possible they'll go off the rails by, Thursday of this week. But in terms of today, they think that what they present today is going to be what they think the narrative will be, or they hope to make the narrative over the next 2 years. So I think we're going to hear a lot about abortion, particularly late-term abortion, as they call it, which is really just abortion. And to the extent that it happens after 20 weeks, I mean, we can go through all the facts about this. We're talking about less than 1% of abortions. And the vast majority of those are people who wanted to carry their pregnancy to term, but couldn't for health reasons. And but I think that's going to be a big part of it. It's going to be interesting to see if we hear about the MS-13 killing.
You're definitely going to hear.
Well,
about the
only thing that makes me believe that may not be the case is that there was not a white person, who was killed. That from what I can tell of the news reports at this point, we're talking about American citizens. In some ways, it cuts against the narrative, and I also think that. We are now far enough away from 9/11 that the Republican Party doesn't give a shit about New York, and so
he's going to mention it. Just even if
but
it's
if it was a pretty white girl who was killed,
without a doubt,
they would have
it would be the whole
rewritten the
speech.
speech from top
It would
to
be the whole
bottom.
speech. It'll be mentioned. Yeah, of course, if it was a pretty white girl, that would be the whole thing. I just want to let everybody know, I'm drinking liquid IV tonight. As part of my regimen.
So
you
shout out
is
to
this hashtag spawn?
Majority Report sponsors.
You have to decide what you're going to do with the microphone. But
move it around.
The other part that I think is going to be, and I want to just give people a heads up for this right off the bat. We're going to laugh when he introduces the kid named Trump and talks about how badly he feels that he's getting picked on. And I want to make this clear. Like, I am extremely sensitive to this issue. I have kids myself. They have been through this type of bullying. It's horrible. But I just want to prepare everyone right up front. There's no way that we're going to be able to keep a straight face when literally the probably the first president in the history of the country. I don't care if you perceive all of them as being war criminals in the past, definitionally, and psychotic. It doesn't matter. I don't think we have ever had a time in the history of our country. And I remember when Nixon. I was my son's age when Nixon was running for president. I was 6. Wow. I can assure you.
This kid has big ears. He grew up in Asia, and he's getting picked on a lot.
There was no way.
10 minutes of segment on it.
That kids understood that their president was mean in the way that kids understand it today.
Right.
And so, to the extent that this one kid named Trump is getting picked on, there are literally, I think, thousands upon thousands of kids who are... maybe they're Latino, maybe they're from just maybe their parents are immigrants, or maybe they're just, anything but lily white. They're getting picked on in a way that they hadn't been picked on, that the kids who are their age 6 years ago had not gotten picked on. And so I just want to prepare people for that. We just saw the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, we're going to be laughing at the part where the kid who is bullied on national
it's not
television.
because we're pro-bullying as a
because,
blanket
right.
I'm
ideological.
pro-bullying certain people.
There's Brett Kavanaugh smiling as if he has just assaulted someone.
Had a beer.
In the way, yes.
Yeah, had a beer.
Remember when, folks? RBG not here tonight, I believe.
But doesn't she always not come?
Well,
I think
she didn't come
hasn't
last time.
Yeah.
Right.
Alito not here. So, there's that. There's Gorsuch.
Just a
Let's
murderer's
hear a little bit of the
row.
sound so that we can hear. Oh, not really terribly exciting sound. I'm going to turn on the IMs. I'm not going to guarantee I'm going to read many of them, but if you are so inclined, of course, you pick up the app at majorityapp.com, and you can IM the show with your thoughts. There's Gorsuch. These two guys.
Oh, gosh. This
Man.
is really unpleasant, man.
Just those rictus grins.
Ask the moms.
Thank you.
It turns out Rick Perry is the designated survivor.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
And this
Well,
is when
we're fucked.
this is when we discover that Rick Perry's actually like a secret genius, and he's been putting the plans in
I think
place.
the smart money is on we don't find that out.
That's probably the smart money. The dumb money is some type of.
I think even the
either-
dumb money is
Yeah, the
probably
dumb.
on
Yeah.
that.
Every money is on.
Right.
He's
no
an
one
idiot.
will. No one will take your bet on that.
Right.
No.
I think you have to literally be hooked up to a machine with the
What would you
brainwaves
do
going
if
flat.
Rick Perry became president? Would you be
I
more
don't know.
disturbed than if Trump was president?
I don't know. I wouldn't. Because I don't think Rick Perry has I don't think Rick Perry is like
Not as mean spirited.
No, but I'm saying Rick Perry is no Mike Pence.
No.
I think
Right.
Rick Perry just
He's not
is
an
like,
ideologue.
No, he would be
hey
better.
man,
than
if,
Mike Pence,
if cowboy boots are
Hey,
going to
look,
get me
it's
elected,
Joe
yeah.
Manchin.
I think
wear my
he's also
metrosexual
like
glasses.
Did
yeah.
you catch Joe Manchin buddying with? I guess
Now
it's,
the white
with,
that
Kavanaugh.
Democratic Congress women are wearing is a tip of the hat to the suffragette movement.
Remember Kevin Kramer, the then congressman of North Dakota, but now senator, famously went on local news and said they had a mental illness for wearing that last.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, maybe it was last year or the year before.
I have to say that, did you hear Kramer following the Kavanaugh stuff, talking about Heidi Heitkamp on local news? Did you ever catch that clip?
Oh God, what did he say?
It was.
I feel like I've lived so many lives. You'll have to refresh.
It was
my
such a
memory.
disaster that I specifically remember saying, because Matt's from North Dakota, that
Right.
if this guy wins North Dakota, we might as well just basically somehow sever off from the rest of the country.
Yeah, just get rid of it.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. This is him on. Are you guys ready for this? Oh, wait a second. It sounds like they're being quiet. Oh.
The chatter begins.
Christo told me about that, Rick Perry. Bronze Plan. Really glad Patrick made it to the studio tonight. Why do you keep calling him Brendan? Test. That's my thought. Nick from Manitoba. Hey, Sam.
This is it.
Well, really, the acting cabinet, right? I mean, how many of the members of the cabinet now are actually Senate confirmed?
Not that many, right?
Right?
Yeah, no, it's like a surprisingly small number.
Pompeo is, Mnuchin.
Although they're cramming as many judges as they possibly can through. That's working.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, Mnuchin got a haircut. He's got that new haircut look, you know?
Uh-huh.
You get the haircut before the special occasion, and it's really short.
Do you think Wilbur Ross knows where he is?
No, absolutely not.
Huh? Say again? Yeah, Wilbur Ross is awake. And then I don't even recognize half the people in there. There's Ben Carson, and there's Elaine Chao, and there's
the Ag Secretary.
there is the Kristen Nielsen, the
Nazi
really
Barbie.
just horrible,
Face of the Gestapo.
unbelievable, horrible person. There's Matt Whitaker, the acting DOJ.
Go by. I had to get revenge.
What was that?
Thank
I
you.
think there was a hot mic on Ben Carson.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Carson. Yeah.
No, I was playing a drop.
I know that Rick Perry is the designated survivor, but you can't help but think, what is the net? What would be the net? Something just
It's a net positive.
like a chandelier.
it's
How about a chandelier falling? A chandelier falling.
I'm thinking much grander than that.
But-
Parody, not actionable.
Right, exactly. We should say that anything that we say tonight is, of course, parody. That is one of the features of this show. Satire.
The satire report.
Gina Haspel, girl boss, right there.
Nick from Manitoba. Hey, Sam, what's the matter with you? You don't support Pod Save America's mission statement on healthcare? You don't think their muddled mess of caveats on top of caveats risks the imagination? You must be one of those progressive that wants to divide the country. Yes, well.
It sounds like he's got you...
pegged.
He's got you pegged.
Gas socialist. Georgia socialist. Okay. Abrams for Senate 2020. MT, Nausea Central, here we come. A Wild Bill, love you guys. The Quantum Saramai, laugh my ass off. Attorney Andrew, sneaking this one in from the earlier show, Topher Spiro, CAP's health policy expert, is currently pushing CAP's Medicare Extra as a more feasibly possible policy designed to Medicare for all. However, when he's not doing that, he spent the last week blocking any and every Medicare for all advocate, including Abdul El-Sayed, who may be the nicest guy on the planet. I've interviewed him, and he is incredibly nice. And calling Wendell Potter a troll. Topher Spiro. Jesus.
Well, he is a troll. I mean, he betrayed his industry.
It's true.
And he's always talking about what his industry does. It doesn't do. It's highly troll behavior. Wendell Potter, known as the original irony bro.
Yeah. Josh from Houston, I feel like the AIDS announcement is going to have a homophobic subtext, like you gay people done messed up and got diseased, and we have a fix for you. The Alpha Cup, this is a reference to, reportedly, Donald Trump is going to make an announcement that there is going to be a plan to eradicate AIDS by 2030, I think it is.
Right.
Wow. Try telling that to Mike Pence, who oversaw an AIDS outbreak in Indiana.
It's a thing called apple cider vinegar.
You gotta
great for your immune system.
You gotta set the table to eat to then clear the table.
I mean, they could just kill all the people with AIDS. That would get rid of AIDS, right? Maybe
a lot
that's
of
what
AIDS
it is.
medications are really toxic. So
now, people should know that the Congress folks, all the Congress people, have the ability to invite one person. I think it is.
Yep.
And there are several Congress people have brought transgender people who are in the military. There are.
here we go.
All right, now we get the love fest.
AOC brought the woman who cornered Jeff Flake
In the elevator.
Hell yeah.
Shiro.
Oof.
All right. He's got his game face on. Red tie.
I've
serious
snorted
look.
so much Adderall. I can't even believe it.
I didn't start anything with the wife.
Hot mic again.
Don't touch me.
I didn't want to say anything tonight. I just wanted to do that.
My man looking like a dang Cheeto. Am I right?
Actually, it looks like it's
No, yeah, he looks like he actually didnn't get a fresh spray tan. For
You know,
this event.
now-
Looking like a snack.
Everybody knows
Snack of
that this is
Cheetos.
all,
dusty. It's
people
been sitting
want
in the
these
bodega for a
pictures.
while.
They want these pictures
have
for
Cheetos
back
in the
home.
back,
This is a function of the Republican, Republican Party is Trump. Trump is the Republican Party.
When it's convenient, right?
Oh, is that Louis Gohmert?
Yeah, the one that matters is me. I'm the only one that matters.
Oh, wow. Hot mic in his brain.
The Alpha Cuck says, hey, I'm our crew. Thanks for making this nonsense tolerable. I'm drinking every time Trump says the word big. I should say, people have asked me what kind of drinking game that we're doing. My drinking game is just to keep drinking. And then if I drink enough so that I don't break down in tears, or if I do drink enough so that I do break down in tears, I win.
So either way, you're going to be crying.
That's right.
It's a win-win.
It's a
I should
win-win.
also say to listener Ann, who has supplied us both with beer tonight, and I am drinking from the bottle of Glenfiddich that she sent, I guess, a couple of months ago.
You're already on the Glenfiddich. You really are going to cry.
No. Hard before soft in the loft. Soft before hard in the yard.
That's
And
I've never heard that exact one before.
Well,
Everyone knows that.
everyone knows that.
Almost wouldn't even have to be
I
said.
start with the hard liquor, and then I go to a beer as a chaser. Here you go. Here's my speech. Here you go. Oh.
And what does he want to mutter under his breath at Nancy Pelosi?
Oh, he doesn't have the balls. Honestly, he doesn't have the guts to do that.
I'm actually conflict.
He doesn't have the guts to do that. He's only going to sit in his office and bitch. He's not going to say anything to her directly.
Wouldn't it be great?
Already kicking in.
Wouldn't it be great if the lady Democrats had actually just given up and joined the cigarette smoking cult from the leftovers?
Yeah, that would have been really cool.
Oh, I never watched it.
Is that a good show?
It's good.
Good but depressing.
Yeah, you'll feel like you're losing your mind every time. You'll have to watch Bob's Burgers afterwards, but it's good.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, I don't like animation.
I don't know what I said.
Matt just putting on a clinic tonight.
Go through the oldies.
Got our first Bernie sighting of the night. Didn't see his $10,000 winter coat, unfortunately.
$50,000 winter coat.
That must be in the cloakroom.
Which house should I go home to?
I gotta time this.
Oh, look at how excited John Tester is. John Tester seems super excited.
Man,
now, I guess, like on some level,
weeks.
it's sort of ridiculous to look and see how excited they are because it's all just for show on some level. But
wait, when you're talking about Marco Rubio having a good couple of weeks, you're talking about the coup in Venezuela?
Oh yeah, he's been
stoked,
going big.
Right. And also, he wrote a good column.
Folks, it's time.
Madam Speaker, Mr. Vice President, Crazy Lee Harvey Oswald, the First Lady of the United States.
It's just such a good walk down memory lane. Oh, is she gonna stand? She was thinking about not, though.
Hello.
Didn't they not stand during Obama's or something? Am I misremembering that?
It's possible.
And my fellow Americans, we meet tonight at a moment of unlimited potential. As we begin a new Congress, I stand here ready to work with you
as a fixer-upper home.
to achieve historic breakthroughs for all Americans. Millions of our fellow citizens are watching us now gathered in this great chamber, hoping that we will govern not as two parties, but as one nation.
I'm nodding so hard. Yes.
They're all going to, I got them all to stand up.
We're going to die here.
I did it.
We're going to
I did it.
die here.
Look at Elizabeth Warren's like, you're not tricking me, motherfucker. I see you.
She was a professor.
The agenda I will lay out this evening is not a Republican agenda or a Democrat agenda. It's the agenda of the American people. Many of us have campaigned on the same core promises.
It's the agenda
to defend
correct.
American jobs and demand fair trade for American workers, to rebuild and revitalize our nation's infrastructure, to reduce the price of health care.
Where are those two?
And
What were they called?
drugs,
The perfect liars? Where are those guys who come out and go,
create
boring?
Yeah, the good liars.
The good liars.
Boring. You're boring.
Hey guys,
Lawful,
remember Infrastructure Week? That was
secure,
fun.
It's coming back.
and to pursue a foreign policy that puts America's interest first. Oh, God. There is a new
he's got to have a new slogan.
He was told the
If only
applause
we
line
have
there.
the courage
It didn't come.
No.
together to seize it.
Smoke them if you got them, ladies.
Jeez.
Look at this humorous bunch of broads.
Yeah, why are they so uptight?
Victory is not
Turns into like some
winning for our
college
party.
movie.
Hello, party.
Victory
Come on,
is winning
lose it
for
up.
our country.
It's sprayed for the camera.
Pence can see the thing that says stop for applause, and he's still hesitating.
Oh my God.
How long?
This
How
year,
long until he
America
goes off
will
script?
recognize
Not off
two
script so
important
far, guys.
anniversaries that show us the majesty of America's mission and the power of American pride.
Oh my God.
In June, we mark 75 years since the start of what General Dwight D. Eisenhower called the Great Crusade, the Allied liberation of Europe in World War II.
Has there ever, have you ever seen this many people watching a speech where the speaker had so little connection to the words he was saying? This is
June 6, 1944.
It's an incredible artifact in that way.
15,000
All I
young
can think of is
American
Tony
men
Soprano and Sweats
jumped
watching
from the
History
sky,
Channel.
and
Although that's
60,000
an
more
insult to Tony
stormed
Soprano.
in from
Sure,
the
he was
sea.
more serious.
So if you think about it,
To
D-Day
save
is kind of
our
like ISIS coming
civilization
across the
from
Mexican
tyranny.
border.
Here with us tonight are three of those incredible heroes. Private First Class Joseph Riley,
You are
Staff
so
Sergeant
old.
Irving Locker, and Sergeant Herman Zaitchek.
Get up there, Zaitchek.
It's sad to me.
Get up, Zaitchek. You get up.
I don't like this.
That's got to cut both ways for those guys. I lived this long. I finally got to a State of the Union address, and it's fucking
for
Donald
this guy,
Trump.
yeah.
They probably like
That one guy seems to be a real fan.
I think he's just psyched to be there.
Keep it going,
For
Sonny.
every Nazi you kill, you get to go to one fascist State of the Union address.
You better go off script.
I hope these guys stay up and filibuster.
Gentlemen, we salute you.
Please stand till the end. Thank you.
In 2019, we also celebrate.
It really sounds
50
like you
years
believe
since
that, right?
brave
Gentlemen,
young
we salute you.
pilots Flew 250,000 miles through space to plant the American flag on the face of the moon.
False flag.
Half a century later, we are joined
Supposedly.
by one of the Apollo 11 astronauts who planted that.
We got everyone. We got
Buzz
astronauts. We got
Aldrin.
vets.
Did you hear the way he said that? He doesn't know that it was Apollo 11.
No.
He said
He's
the Apollo
reading.
11
He's
astronauts.
reading. He's
For the
reading.
first time.
He's barely even gone over this once.
It was the Astronaut 9 at 11.
Is it Buzz?
Is that Buzz?
I guess it's Buzz.
Oh, shit.
Wow, Elizabeth Warren not standing for Buzz Aldrin.
The
Incredible.
campaign is over.
Who's this small
And
girl?
people said the Super Bowl was boring. Give me a break.
Thank you, Buzz.
Thank you, Bob.
This year, American
In case you didn't know who
astronauts
that
will
was.
go
Freelance.
back to
I like
space
that.
Totally
on
freelance.
I like that
American
part.
rockets.
Rockets.
Is he going to talk about Space Force? A thing
whatever
that's
happened to that?
That's real and definitely happening. I like.
We were a
my girl
superpower.
Tammy.
In the 20th century, America saved freedom, transformed science, redefined the middle class, and when you get down to it, there's nothing anywhere in the world that can compete with America.
I also
Everyone wins. All the Republicans wins when he said science. Like, where's he going with this?
I also had sex with Robin Gibbons in the 1980s. And people say I'm racist, which is totally unfair. Mike Tyson didn't want me to have sex with him. He thought he was tough, but I
boldly
did.
and bravely into
Everyone
the
knows
next
that.
chapter of this great American adventure. And we must create a new standard of living for the 21st century.
Get off script.
We're going
An
to
amazing
Mars.
quality of life for all of our citizens
Trump
is
steaks.
within reach. We can make our communities safer,
Play that Trump steak.
our families
Available
stronger,
at the Shopper Image.
our culture richer, our faith deeper,
A new
and our lives bigger than ever before.
We can be even whiter than we were in the past.
I'm not going to tell you Versace once. Studio 57. I want that speech. I want him to give the Boy Scout speech. When he was with the Boy Scouts in West Virginia.
But
he
we
just was
must
like,
reject
I was having an orgy at a
Tell you
yacht.
about a
once
hot
with-
tub.
That was
with-
one of his
Resistance and
wildest
retribution.
speeches yet.
And embrace
And
the
that
boundless
was what made Rex
potential of
Tillerson like
cooperation,
one thing to propose a
compromise,
government
and
equatorial
the common
Guinea
good.
and torture people for oil.
But now that's changed. Today, through the Sharper Image, you can
AOC.
enjoy the world's greatest
Queen.
steaks in your own home with
Epic
family,
bitch
friends,
face, I love
anytime,
it.
and you're going
Lydia
to find
Vasquez.
the affordability.
Lydia Vasquez had a very
Together
intense
we
bitch
can
face
break
there, too.
decades of political stalemate. We can bridge old
Folks,
divisions,
we've already done it.
heal old wounds,
I'm
build
here doing
new
the State of the Union
coalitions,
only 2 weeks late.
forge new solutions, and unlock the extraordinary promise of America's future. The decision is ours to make. We must choose between greatness or gridlock, results or resistance, vision or vengeance, incredible progress or pointless destruction. Tonight, I ask you
It's not a
to
hint
choose
of irony. Which
greatness.
one are you, dude?
Incidentally, Maxine Waters is low IQ. But despite that, we can work together.
You know, I'll tell you something. Now, it's early in the speech, but I think we do have to give it up to the fact that not only is this boring, it's also devoid of substance.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that's
None
not
of this
easy to
means
do.
anything.
That's not easy to do. We've had plenty of of State of the
Folks,
Unions where it's like,
America,
here's a litany
right?
of policy prescriptions that are incredibly boring, but very substantive. This is neither, and that's pretty
just
good.
It's like a greatest hits reel.
since the
Folks,
election,
how about our vets?
we have
You like
launched an
astronauts?
unprecedented economic boom.
Now, I'd like to
A
introduce
boom that has
some cowboys
rarely
and
been
some
seen.
firemen.
And now I'd like to go
There's
into
been
the
nothing
becomes
like
a Chippendales show.
reconciliation
They got 'em.
portion of
5.3
the
million new
speech. Where we all
jobs.
get along.
And importantly,
No, he's
added
just pretending to
600,000 new
become a part of the
manufacturing
establishment,
jobs,
all right? It's all
something
part of the
which
Q
almost
thing.
Everyone
They've
said was
created
impossible to
5.3
do.
million new jobs all
But
at
the fact
Sunclass.
is, we are
Sunglass
just
Huts.
getting started.
Fuck yeah. Go for it.
That Foxconn deal just fell apart, so I don't know where that number's coming from.
I like that. Yep. Born identity music. Just do it.
Wages are
I love
rising
it.
at the fastest
I'm all
pace
for
in
the non
decades
sequitur drops.
and growing for blue-collar workers.
Folks, can
who
we
I
get a fact
promised
check
to
on
fight
that?
for.
Wages are rising?
They're growing faster than anyone else thought possible.
I need the fact check, Mafia.
Nearly 5 million Americans have been lifted off food stamps.
Lifted or dropped.
They've
whatever.
been dropped, yeah.
John Evelyn.
You gotta lift someone before you drop them.
Yeah, it's just physics.
The U.S. economy is growing almost twice as fast today as when I took office. And we are
T-minus 30
considered
seconds before he talks about like the
far
black
away
and
the
Hispanic
hottest
unemployment
economy
rates being
anywhere
low,
in the world.
which are his two
Not even
favorite
close.
stats.
Oh, look at Bernie. Bernie
Unemployment
taking notes.
has reached the lowest rate
Oh, really,
in over
motherfucker?
half a century.
She's thirsty.
It's made me thirsty for policy.
African American, Hispanic American,
That was
and
good.
Asian
Thank you.
American
Thank you.
unemployment
Cheers.
have all reached
I'll take
their
my
lowest
$5
levels
Amazon gift card.
ever recorded.
Well, we knew that
Which brings me to MS-13.
Yeah.
They shot a guy in Queens today, and why won't the New York Times write anything good about
Unemployment
me?
for
I'm from
Americans
Jamaica
with disabilities
Estates.
has also reached an all-time
That interview
low.
was awesome. God. I'm a hometown guy. I grew up in Jamaica, Queens. Jamaica Estates. And I don't get one
This is
good
the shot
article
that
from my
Fox,
hometown
right,
paper.
will take,
Oh, yeah.
where all of those Democratic
looking
women
now.
will
Look
not
at these
applaud
harpies,
the,
yeah.
the lowest.
In the
Why
history
won't
of
they
our country.
applaud
Why
the
do you
lowest?
hate black people
57
working
Exactly.
3 jobs
million
and still being
people
below the
at
poverty
work.
line? Yeah, this is really just B-roll for
passed a
people's,
massive tax cut
election
for working families
attack ads,
and
right?
doubled the child tax credit.
For rich families. Again, that doesn't kick in until you make like $150,000 a year.
That's when
We
you start
virtually
I think
ended
AOC
the
is wearing a
estate
dang
tax
cape.
or death
So I
tax.
just
Hell yeah.
I just
As
need
it
to
is often
flag that
called,
for the
on small
ladies in the
businesses,
Not
for
all heroes
ranches,
wear capes. Some
and
do.
also for family
AOC,
farms.
family farms. Never found a single family farm that was implicated when the estate tax had a limit of $7 million, I think it was, at that time, combined between two people. Never, not one. Maybe it was $5 million even at that time when they did the report.
That's such an enduring image, though. You know, like.
And to give critically ill patients access to life-saving cures.
Access.
We passed, very importantly, right to try.
You get the right
The right
to try.
The right
Look
to
at
try.
Christian Cinema,
The right
very
to be
happy.
a human guinea pig.
That
Right
loosened
to try.
pharmaceutical regulations dramatically. I'm sure in a year or so, when I'm in Vegas talking to tort lawyers, we'll be having a lot of conversations about that.
Very Hunger Games.
Yep.
Got the right to try, folks.
We've improved access and incidentally also slashed all kinds of
Companies
regulations.
are coming back to our country in large numbers.
They're not.
Thanks to our historic reductions in taxes and regulations.
We were a superpower. We are now a hyperpower.
And we have unleashed a revolution in American energy. The United States is now the #1 producer of oil and natural gas
in
anywhere
America,
in the world.
We are going to burn this planet. We're going to light it on fire, and we're all going to be burnt to a crisp.
Did you?
And it's going to be because of
And
America
I'm
lit,
not going to die
lit
alone.
the match.
Did you see Ben Shapiro being like, "It's not a climate change isn't a
now,
big deal because
for
it's
the
not going to
first
happen for like
time
50
in
years
65
today."
years,
I love that.
we
I
are a
preferred
net
if it actually does
exporter
happen and
of
your house
energy.
goes underwater, then you can just sell it. That was
Well, his head is always underwater because he's like 5 feet tall. Even
Yeah,
in
he
the
should be the
shallow
most
end.
concerned about rising waters.
That type of shit. Thank
After
you.
24 months,
Ad
of
hominem,
rapid
please.
Yeah.
That's an ad hominem.
Ad hominem,
Ad
sir.
hominem,
Of the world.
sir.
Our military is the most powerful on earth by far.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Oh, this is the section.
Straight into my bloodstream.
This is, remember the Republican debates where it was
Shouldn't
just
they,
like...
should they, do they not clap? Is it undignified?
No, they're not allowed to. Well, the
Ah.
military never claps, nor do the Supreme Court justices.
Right.
Oh, there's Ted Cruz.
America
He still has that
is
fucking
again
beard.
winning each
He probably has like his
and
face
every
rash or
day.
It's terrible.
So much winning.
How did America win for you
Members of
today?
Congress, the state of our union is strong.
If I had to assign a threat level of success of America right now, I would give it a strong. Like this
USA?
This is a college basketball game.
Football game.
Honestly,
excuse you.
I was in a
Basketball
comedy
has
group
a much
in
higher
Cambridge, Mass.
That sounds so good.
Wait,
Our country is
we just
vibrant,
missed a good one.
and our
cheering?
economy is
USA,
thriving.
right?
No, they
Like
were
never
cheering
before.
something
I
else.
played Paul Ryan Sucks.
On
Oh, you
Friday,
did.
it was announced
And then he
They
went.
were
that we
chanting
added
USA
another
though.
304,000
So I was
jobs
part of a comedy group,
last
Benjamin and
month
I, and a
alone.
couple other guys.
Almost
we came down to
double
New York
the number expected.
25 years ago, and literally almost the entire show was us pretending we were audience members chanting USA.
Very
I
hard.
enjoyed chanting USA at our.
Guess
at
what?
the-
People did not think it was funny.
It sounds funny, actually. I like how
No,
all,
it's funny
all
if
of
you
your
were
show
watching
is just
was
audience
taking place in the
antagonism.
United
Yes,
States.
exactly.
I liked Matt and I got
And
an
the
opportunity
only
to
thing
chant
that can
USA,
stop it
USA at the TMBS
are
live show. It was
foolish
actually pretty
wars,
fun. When that guy came in
politics,
talking about the
or
9/11
ridiculous
and
Oh, yeah.
internal
partisan
demolitions,
investigation.
Turns
I wish I could say I planted that.
Performing
It was
nationalism
hilarious.
is pretty fun.
It was great.
Ridiculous partisan investigations.
But I mashed it up at Lou Larry.
I mean, looking like a fan.
And he is.
Oh, is that
turning
Adam
over the
There is
table.
going
Yeah.
to be peace and legislation. There cannot be war and investigation. It just
made
it
doesn't
rhyme!
work
Fuck
that
yeah,
way.
dude.
Hot bars from the president
We
tonight.
must
Spin rhymes.
be united at home to defeat our adversaries.
Trump just
Abroad.
went all, if the
This
glove
new
doesn't
era
fit, you must
of
acquit.
Yeah.
cooperation can start.
Yeah.
with finally
honestly admire
the more
it.
than
You know, just go
300
straight for it.
highly
It worked
I
for
thought
OJ.
it was good.
Yeah, it
who are
did. It
still
did.
stuck in the Senate. In some cases, years and
I
years
am totally
waiting.
not mad at that.
Not right.
That certainly never happened under Obama.
Totally not right. Totally not right. That white people would investigate me to begin with. Not right.
You got to pull
The
that
Senate
line
has
about the
failed to act on
investigations.
these
Right?
nominations, which is unfair to the nominees and very unfair to our country.
Super
Now
unfair.
is the time for bipartisan action.
Did someone
Believe it or
shout?
not, we have already proven that that's possible. In the last Congress, both parties came together to pass unprecedented legislation to confront the opioid crisis, a sweeping new farm bill, historic VA
I
reforms,
love that farm bill.
and after 4 decades of rejection, we passed VA accountability so that we can finally
Leslie
terminate
looks like
those
he's
who
literally
mistreat
like,
our
just if I
wonderful
could just make
veterans.
it another hour.
He's also like, these are my 4 legislative victories, so I better name them all off.
When you say another hour, you mean like alive?
I'm just
Like
like
living?
exactly,
Not dying?
Exactly.
Okay, good.
How
Just
many
wanted to be
hamburgers
clear.
did he eat before this?
Fish
And just
fillets.
weeks
I'm on a
ago,
regime.
Both
Shut up,
parties
Cat.
united
I'm a
for
pescatarian.
Yeah,
groundbreaking
I'm doing the
criminal
Rasta diet.
justice
McDonald's is
reform.
vegan.
They said it couldn't be done.
Only strictly
Justice
ITAL foods.
reform.
Remember how Trump said the other day when he was talking about the football players, and he's like, I understand sometimes they're protesting for legitimate things like justice, but I just
Last
took care of
year,
it. We signed
I
it.
heard through friends.
You gotta be.
The story
You
of
gotta be
Alice
impressed that the
Johnson.
president just used the State of the Union address to basically
deeply
say,
moved.
"Stop investigating me
In
for all the crimes that
1997,
everyone has committed."
That would be
in my
Alice
name."
was
That would be
sentenced
so cool.
to life in prison
I hope that sets
as a
precedent.
first-time
His biggest problem is the Southern
nonviolent
District of New
Oh, is
York.
this
Right,
the,
right,
is
right,
this the
absolutely.
woman that he pardoned because of
Over
Kim
the next-
Kardashian?
I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah,
Yo,
yeah.
22
all
years,
props to Kim Kardashian.
she
I'm 100%
became
pro this.
a prison
Everybody who
minister,
nerded out about this
inspiring
sucked. This was
others
good for
to
Kim, and I'm
choose a
glad he
better
did
path.
this. All props.
She
Only
had a
non-ironic
big
part of the speech
impact
right now.
on that prison population and far beyond. Alice's story underscores
He'll certainly not
the
give
disparities
Kim,
and
her
unfairness
due.
that can
Even though
exist
Kanye's a fan.
in criminal sentencing,
But
and the need
seriously, all
to
props
remedy
to Kim
this
for that.
total
she figured out like the
injustice.
only way you could actually
She served
effectively
almost
do anything with him
that
in his,
22
like,
years
pathological celebrity obsession,
and had
which is like I have a
expected
super
to be in
specific
prison.
request.
Well, she speaks the
I
same
can
language.
For the
unionize
remainder
it,
of her
and
life.
she
Yeah.
speaks the same language, and she helped. She saved
In
a woman's life.
June,
That's awesome.
I commuted
All props to Kim.
Alice's sentence. When I saw
Oh my God! Now she has to sit next to
Alice's
fucking
beautiful
Jared
family
Kushner. Look at
It's a
him.
drop.
That's
greet her
terrifying.
at
Where's
the prison
mine?
Where's
gates,
the prison?
hugging and kissing and
Almost.
crying and
Right.
laughing.
Oh, we should
I
have
knew I
No, but
did
this is real, I
something
mean.
right. Alice is with us
You gotta-
tonight,
oh, yeah,
and she is a
father-in-law did that for
terrific
you. How you like that?
Did you see my dad got you out of
Alice,
prison?
please.
Oh no, don't mug me. Then you'll go back to where you were. My dad went to prison because he tried to get a hooker to humiliate his sister. And then that fat fuck Chris Christie ruined our Passover.
Thank
Wow.
you, Kim.
Thank you. No, for
That
real,
woman
thank you.
behind her is completely asleep.
Alice, thank
Oh,
you
yeah.
for
Who was
reminding
that?
us that
Totally
we
asleep,
always
not
have
even
the
aware that
power
the person in front of her
to
is getting to
shape
standing up.
our own destiny. Thank you very much, Alice. Thank you very much. Inspired by stories like Alice's,
Really
my
sucks that he gets to take
administration
credit
worked
for this-
closely
this
with
objectively
members of
good
both
thing,
parties
though.
to sign the
Of course it
first
sucks,
step
but I'm
act
just-
Yeah.
into
It's
law.
good.
It is a good thing.
That's a
Big
pure
deal.
good, and I
Big
didn't
deal.
appreciate
And they're so rare.
Yeah,
when they come,
that's-
yeah.
exactly.
You gotta savor them when they come around.
And people will just overthought that so much. It's like, no, this isn't going to. This
This
guy's not going to become
legislation
popular.
reformed
He's not going to like
sentencing laws
change his
that
electoral
have
calculus.
wrongly
It just so
and
happens that his ego is
disproportionately
appealed to in a way where one
harmed
person's
the
life is saved.
African
It's a
American
good thing.
community. The First Step Act gives nonviolent offenders the chance to re-enter society as productive, law-abiding citizens.
I spent a lot of
Now
time
states
thinking
across the
about
country
this. Working.
are following our
I read
lead.
reports. I had a
I don't know. What do I know about it?
That
All I know
believes
is
in
what's on the
redemption.
internet.
We are also joined tonight by Matthew Charles from Tennessee. In 1996, at the age of 30, Matthew was sentenced to 35 years for selling drugs and related offenses. Over the next 2 decades,
I
he
committed
completed more
to
than 30
not
Bible
renting to
studies,
him or
became
anyone
a
else who was
clerk,
black. That's what I did
and mentored
to add to this.
many
His
of
family was evicted
fellow
and lost their
inmates.
savings from a chump
Now
property. and
Matthew
he
is
was
the very
forced into a
first
life of
person
crime.
to be released from prison under the First Step Act.
He couldn't quite.
Like, it's so clear he doesn't really know the names of any of this stuff.
Can we
right?
call it something else? Just like First Act. Not First Step Act. 2 words. Not sure where to hit the emphasis.
Can we call it the MBA Act?
Thank you, Matthew. Welcome
He is
home.
actually going to get like a whole boatload of prejudice.
Oh,
after.
there he is. That's his first ad lib. Welcome
now,
home.
Republicans and
Welcome
Democrats must join forces again to confront an urgent national crisis.
We're getting to
MS-13.
the dark. This is the dark
Congress
portion of
has
the speech.
10 days left
think
to
so.
pass a bill that will fund our government, protect our homeland,
Nancy Pelosi
and
is
secure
pursing her
our very
lips so hard
dangerous
right now.
southern border.
I like Nancy.
Now
Pelosi.
is
I
the
have a soft
time
spot
for
her.
Congress to show the world
I think
that
we should-
America
we should
is
primary
committed
her,
to
but that's
ending
just-
Oh,
illegal
that's just me.
immigration
100% should
and
primary
putting
her.
the ruthless
we're not talking
coyotes,
substance. I
Yeah.
just like her in
cartels,
this type of situation.
drug dealers,
Given
No.
the, given
and
the
human
3 people in the
traffickers
frame right now,
out
sure.
That's
of
there you go.
business.
No, I actually really like Nancy Pelosi's approach to black.
Who do you think?
Apple.
Who do you think is tasked with explaining to Trump that they're not actual coyotes involved in smuggling?
I don't think anybody is.
No.
I
Someone
think they want him
definitely
to think
explained
that.
it to him at some point.
I think they
Yeah.
want him to think that there are, so he's even more
I
freaked out.
already heard about that. I know. I get it. I
Wow.
get it now.
You know, you got to give Kamala Harris
As we
face
speak,
props. She really does
large,
know how to just give you
organized
like you're a
caravans
fucking idiot,
are on the
dude.
march to the United States.
She is very effective at that.
We have just heard
They're
that
marching.
Mexican
They're in
cities,
organized columns.
in order to
Well,
remove
Pelosi just basically
the illegal
told him to
immigrants
give the
from
shush.
their
Did
communities.
you see that?
Are getting
No, I missed
trucks
it.
and
People
buses
started
to bring
booing
them
him
up
about the caravans.
to our country.
Let them
in
boo.
areas
I
where
hate shit
there
like
Yeah,
is
why
that.
the
little
fuck wouldn't you let
border
them
Don't
boo?
protection.
boo, vote.
It's about
I have
decorum.
Yeah.
Another
Right.
3,750
Civility
troops
first.
to our southern border.
Don't
Thank
boo.
God.
This
Prepare
country
for
needs a
this
strong Republican
tremendous
Party.
onslaught.
And in conclusion,
This is a moral issue. The lawless state of our southern border
Oh my
is a
God.
threat to the safety,
So he's just
security,
saying Mexico
and
is a
financial
lawless
well-being
country, right?
of all America.
Mexico
Where
is
the
totally-
hordes
We
are
have a
coming.
moral duty to create an immigration system that protects the lives and jobs of our citizens. This includes our obligation to the millions of immigrants living here today who followed the rules
This is absolutely going to
and
be
respected
a
our
reaction
laws.
gif.
Legal
I'm
immigrants
sorry to say.
enrich our nation
No doubt.
and strengthen our society.
And it's going to be
In
really
That's
countless
why
ways.
we are kicking out everyone here on the TSP.
Right.
We're kicking out anybody we can kick out.
That's why
Please
I
ex-
fired
please-
all
Yeah,
the
the dreamers.
lawnskeepers at
Please
my,
explain
golf
TSP
courses this week.
for people, because I think they don't know about that
There
one as
is
much. That one is
a
really
program
important.
where we allow refugees
Coming to our
in
country
if their country has suffered some type of
largest
major
numbers ever.
natural
But they
disaster
have to come
or
in
civil war or something like that, and they're refugees. They come here. Maybe after 5 or 10 years, maybe their homes are rebuilt. Maybe the places they can go back to are safe, but they have established lives here. So to kick them out at that point, after they maybe have had children here, or maybe they have had other relatives have immigrated here because they were here, is just obscene and completely without purpose.
And correlates with the specific racism he's expressed towards Haitians.
Well,
It's
it's
disgusting.
an asshole country.
Working
He's
class
disgusting.
and America's political
Amusingly,
class
he might actually
than
lose that case
illegal
because of that
immigration.
comment,
Wealthy
Good reminder
politicians
that he's
and
a bloody
donors
trust fund baby fuck.
push for open
Yeah,
borders
talking about how the
while
working
living
class
their
is
lives
hit
behind
hardest
walls
by
and gates
illegal immigration
and guards.
really takes me back to the discourse online recently.
Yeah, no shit.
Meanwhile, working class Americans are left to pay the price for mass illegal immigration. Reduced jobs, lower wages, overburdened schools, hospitals that are so crowded you can't get in.
I would recommend everybody
Increased
go
crime
and read the
and a depleted
AFL-CIO's
social
official policy
safety
page
net.
on immigration.
And then
Tolerance
listen to
for
episode
illegal
31 of the
immigration
Intifada to
is
find
not
out why the
compassionate.
criminalization
It
of
is
migration
actually
is what
very
drives down
cruel.
wages for working class people.
I have nothing to plug on this front.
See, I just think it's
One in
fast. I
three
just think it's
women
like you can go to the most
sexually
mainstream
assaulted
labor
on
organization
the
in the
long
country, like
journey
a
north.
really important union that plays a
Smugglers
really
use-
They
important
will
role,
all
but by
concede
no
that
means.
immigration is not the
100%.
problem.
And I'm saying, and
To
to really be clear,
exploit our
like not a
laws
radical one.
and
Like
gain
if there was a
access
potential
to our
third wave
country.
position to stake out on it,
Human
they
They
would
would take
probably
it.
the ones to
Sex
take it.
traffickers
And not only don't
take
they take it, they
advantage
send
Oh, we're
of
talking about sex
wide open
traffickers.
They've sent
now.
fucking delegation
Between our
to
ports
Brazil to free Lula. I mean, they've
thousands
worked
of
at the
young
border. They're
girls
very
and
clear
women
about this
Is he going
stuff.
to tout
into the United
Sesta
States
Fasta?
and to sell them into prostitution
Gotta tout
and
Sesta
modern
Fasta.
day
I'm
slavery.
gonna put in my
Tape,
black Sharpie.
blue,
Tens of
Tax,
thousands of
duct
innocent
tape.
Americans are killed.
blue
Why are they
duct
looking
tape.
at
By
a
legal
Thanks
clothes
to
shop?
Seth
that
Meyers
cross our
and
Wait,
Amy
what?
Schumer,
and
we
flood
did it.
into our cities.
This is just
Including meth,
he's claiming that
heroin,
the
cocaine, and fentanyl.
that these drugs are
Savage
coming.
gang MS-13
Here we go.
now operates in at least 20 different
Savage.
American states.
Savages.
And they almost all come through our southern border.
Oh my God!
Just yesterday, an MS-13 gang member
Told you.
was
MS-13
taken into
started in
custody
California.
for a fatal shooting on a subway platform in New York City.
No way he's not going to do this one.
We are removing these gang members by the
Granted, it
thousands.
was another Hispanic guy, so
But
it
And
doesn't
it's New
really
York.
matter.
They
but it
just-
was in Queens, so
They're
it's
going
freaky.
to
Honestly,
MS-13 was started
right
in LA
back
in
in.
the 80s and then basically
Year after year,
Exported.
in the
countless
90s.
Yes, absolutely.
We
because
did that.
of
by
legislation Clinton
criminals.
signed.
the
illegal
New York thing.
aliens.
There's a reason why
I've
he
gotten to know many
didn't harp on that
wonderful
because it doesn't have any
angels
salience
and
for the rest
No,
of
it
the
isn't
country.
a white
The
person,
idea of
and
like
the
a
guy who
murder
did it
on a
was-
New York
should
subway
ever have to
platform
suffer
for 90% of the
the
people who are
horrible
watching this,
heartache
particularly your Trump
that
supporters,
they
are just
have
like,
had.
doesn't that happen
endure.
every day?
Yeah, that doesn't shock them.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
I know who Charles Bronson is,
Is
sir.
Deborah
Again, we were talking about this before we got on the air, but like a white
Just
girl
3
being
weeks
killed in
ago, Deborah's
Iowa. Now
parents,
that is
Gerald
something you can
and Sharon
energize.
You heard it here,
people.
direct quote.
burglarized
Catherine Kreuger,
and
now
shot
a
to
white
death
girl.
in their
Yeah.
That's something he can work with.
Yeah.
Give me
Well,
something
politically,
Give me something I
They
can
were in
work
their
with. Give me a white
80s.
girl killed in Aruba or something.
and are survived by 4 children, 11 grandchildren, and 20 great-grandchildren.
I'm sorry.
Also
I don't even know
here
what I'm
tonight
laughing over right now.
are Gerald and Sharon's granddaughter, Heather, and great-granddaughter,
really
Madison.
sucks that their tragedy is being weaponized
Deborah,
and they're used as props
Heather
in
Madison,
this disgustingly
please
racist
stand.
agenda.
Few can understand your pain. Thank you, and thank you for being here. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's Tiffany right behind.
Wait, they allowed Tiffany in?
She's wearing white. Interesting.
Hell yeah.
That was interesting. That's a fuck you guys. right
Tiffany,
there.
welcome to the Resistance.
Oh, she clearly hates her dad.
Yeah, she would go lib just to spite her dad.
She's dating a lib.
Yeah, no,
I
my friend
will
saw
never
them in a
forget.
club recently.
And I will fight for the memory of
So
Gerald and
excited,
Sharon,
making love.
that it should never happen again.
I am willing to bet
Not
that tomorrow he
one
will
more
not
American
remember
life
Geraldine Sharon's name.
should be lost.
Who?
I think
Because our
it's
nation
already
failed to
gone.
control
It's already,
its
you
very
know.
Who's
dangerous
Geraldine?
border.
What?
In the last
Geraldine
years, our
Garin?
brave ICE
Garin?
officers
What was it?
Is that a
made
friend of Jared's?
266,000
Do they want to come to the White House later?
arrests of criminal aliens,
All right, leave me alone. It's
including
executive time.
those
Can people
charged
stop
or
reporting
convicted.
When do we
how
get
little
to
he
the-
works, please?
When-
It's great he works so
When do we get to the
assaults,
45 minutes
30,000
of listing
sex
of all the crimes that
and
every
4,000
undocumented
killings or
made in this
murders.
country?
In
We are
Lincoln,
joined
Nebraska,
tonight
just last
by
month,
one
an
of those law
undocumented immigrant
enforcement
got a
heroes.
parking ticket.
ICE Special Agent Elvin Hernandez.
Oh, this
When
is
Elvis-
this
Gotta
is
talk
it
about
right here.
Border
The
Patrol.
Hispanic border control guy. That's the. I love.
You traitor.
I love when Republicans do
Being
the
chicken
most like
son.
base, like their stereotype of identity politics. They actually do, and they always do it like Hispanic ICE agent. What?
Right, exactly. Well, they did.
And you don't have a
When Elvin
response
was
to
a
that.
boy, he and his family legally immigrated to the United
See?
States from the Dominican Republic. At the
Republic.
age of 8, Elvin
Dominican
told his dad he
Republic.
wanted to become a special
He
agent.
Exoticizes everything.
They think
Today,
Haiti's a
he
shithole
leads
too.
investigations into the scourge of international sex
Into the
trafficking.
scourge.
Elvin
This is when he starts
says
to drag off.
that if I can
He's
make
gotta
sure
be bored,
these young
right? Like, I don't
girls
think he has an hour and a
get their
half long
justice,
attention span.
Yeah, no,
I've
he's so
really
bored.
done my job.
Man, this is so bad.
Thanks
compared
to his
greatest
work.
hits,
I will
like
say
and that
this.
of his
Water like Marco Rubio.
Incredible colleagues.
He really does come
than
more alive when he's in
300 women
the
and girls
anti-immigrant.
have been
Like the
rescued from
first
the
part
horror
was very dull,
of
but
this
he now seems
terrible
like he's hit his
situation.
stride when he's
and
talking
more
about
than
how horrible
1,500
Immigrants are.
sadistic
I think he
it's-
knows it's red
have
meat
been
to
put
his people,
behind
right? And he,
This is the part that he gets
yeah,
excited
he
about.
wants to be adored, and he knows that
Yeah.
this is the shit that works.
They're gonna eat up this part. They're gonna eat up.
He's
this
said it
part.
enough times to almost believe it at this point, right? Oh, look at that cape! I'm sorry, it's
So good.
she's looking great.
That's dope.
She'll,
What is she-
she'll
what
let
is-
me down soon enough.
What did he let every? What did
I'll
he
enjoy
have
the cape for
everybody
now.
stand
brave
up
men
for?
and women of
But
law
everybody was
enforcement.
standing up. What did he
And
say?
I pledge to you tonight that I will never abolish our heroes from ICE. Thank you.
People are saying is liquidate all ICE agents.
Abolish
Yeah.
heroes.
That's what they're saying. Abolish all heroes. Get rid of the vets too.
Yeah, that's our official
My
majority.
The wall for you.
administration
It's
sent
like
to
no,
Congress
literally employee
a
by
common
employee.
sense proposal.
What did
Yeah,
you think
this
we
is
meant
some
by
place.
abolish? We really
Yeah.
mean
Southern
abolish.
You remember what
It
Castro
includes
did after Batista had to
humanitarian
leave?
assistance,
He was onto
Yeah.
something.
more
Yeah,
law
there was- yeah.
enforcement, drug detection at our ports, closing loopholes that enable child smuggling, and plans for a new physical barrier or wall to secure the vast areas
I love
between
the
our ports
semantics
of
around
entry.
the wall. Like it's a
In
physical
the past,
barrier. It's
most
a
of the
concrete
people in this
barrier,
room
it's a
Gotta
wall.
be able to
Voted for a
deliver.
wall.
Gotta be able to deliver.
But the proper wall
promise.
never got built. I will get it built.
And Mexico, never mind.
Again, one of the worst beards I've ever seen on a human man.
He has to
is
have
Ted
like
Cruz.
a facial rash or something. He's got to be covering.
He's just
that.
trying to hide something.
I mean, he's always trying to hide
This
something.
is a smart, strategic, see-through steel barrier, not just a simple concrete wall. It will be
Better.
deployed in the areas identified by the border agents as having the greatest need. And these agents will tell you where walls go up, illegal crossings go way, way down.
There's already wall.
You already have a militarized border, you dumb fuck.
But is it a smart wall?
Yeah.
That was actually
It's
probably,
steel, but also
I think
see-through?
Obama did
I want the wall to count your steps.
San Diego used to have the
wall
most
amounted to
illegal
your heart
border
rate.
crossings in our country.
Oh my God!
In
So I just
response,
tweeted
a
out,
strong
"I will get it
security
built,"
wall
and Mexa
was put in place. ... This powerful
And Larry
barrier
Murphy, 3
almost
seconds before me.
completely ended
In fact, it doesn't even say there's a
illegal
difference. It says
crossings.
16 seconds for me, 16 seconds for him. It
border
goes,
city
how
of
does
El
muscle
Paso,
memory,
Texas,
Mexico's going to
used
pay
to
for it
have
not kick in?
Extremely
That's incredible. I
rates
mean,
of violent crime.
He's totally dropped
One of the
that.
highest
It's
in the entire
amazing.
It's
country.
amazing. He
And
said that on the
considered
campaign trail
one of
so
our
many
nation's
times.
I never said that.
most
What?
dangerous cities. Now, immediately upon its
Wouldn't it be
building,
great if Ilhan Omar just
with a
got
powerful
up and was
barrier
like, Baba Booey,
in place,
She's
El
like,
Paso
Muhammad's the king of all
is
prophets.
one of
Baba
the
Booey, Baba
safest
Booey.
cities in our country.
Matt, you know math.
Simply put,
How far is El
walls
Paso
work and
from the
walls
border? I think it's
save
like
It's
something
a
like,
really long way.
like 120 miles away.
It's not a border town.
I think El Paso is a border town. I know that.
Or
from
did he say
watching,
last time,
Hell
did he
or
say
High
San
Water,
Antonio?
which is a good movie. Jeff
How far
So
is it?
let's work together, compromise, and reach a deal.
It's on the border. I learned that
on
from
the border.
Breaking
Truly
Bad.
make
Yeah, last time he said
I'm
San
really
Antonio.
Showing my coastal.
as we
elitism.
work
you were
to
really out of
defend
touch
our
with
Yeah,
that.
I
people's
don't know
safety.
real America.
You should
We must
recover by
also
talking about how
ensure
short Ben Shapiro
our
is.
economic
You know the problem with Ben
resurgence
Shapiro?
Hey guys, have you heard Trump has
continues
small
at a
hands?
rapid
Hey.
pace.
Um,
No one has benefited
Well,
you know what that
more from our
means.
thriving
Yeah.
economy
Believe me.
than women
You know,
who have filled 50%
Perrine
is
of
not
the
showing up. He just
newly
tweeted.
created
Breaking.
jobs
he
last
tweeted.
year.
He didn't even have the decency.
What did he
to-
say?
Yeah, what did he say? I have one for you. Ben Shapiro
Hit me.
falls short of recognizing he's out of AOC's league.
Hey, that's good. That's good.
That's not bad. So I was trying to debate her.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
Rift City, population at least 2.
You know, I have walked across the border, and I'm not sure how much more it could be militarized.
I
You
have
weren't
gone
supposed
to
to do that.
the West Bank and gone
Thank
back.
you very much.
Folks, he's off
Thank you very
script
much.
right now. That was ad-libbed.
All Americans can be proud that we have
I would say the West
more
Bank, yes, it
women
could be more military.
in the workforce
They want to do it
than
like that.
ever before.
We have forced so many two-family income earners.
More women are wage slaves than ever before.
More and more people cannot
Look,
provide for their family.
We've got so many people.
That's feminism.
Don't sit yet. You're going to like this.
Wait, what has he got now?
And exactly 1 century
He's going to just say racial
after
slurs.
Congress passed
He's finally going to
the
do it. He's finally going
constitutional
to go
amendment
say the hard R.
giving women the right to vote, we also have more women serving in Congress.
This is meant to be
than
such a
at any
fuck you
time
to all the
before.
women in white, right? It's like he's doing a commencement address or something. All these applause lines. Give it up, you know? Give it up for yourselves. Keep it going.
Right.
You worked so hard to get here.
Who here has a second home in the D.C. area?
They just showed her the queen of...
AOC is accidentally going wild because, you know, she's secretly rich.
Who here lives somewhere else part-time? Anybody?
No, this shit is so dumb. Don't do it. This is naked. Why are the Democrats joining in on this?
Do we have any,
AOC is doing it ironically because she's cool.
do we have any bleach? Because that's what I'm going to be drinking next.
We came out of the Mar-a-Lago summit with very high hopes.
Very great. And congratulations. That's great.
That's
As
great.
part of our
That's
commitment
great.
to
Now shut the fuck
You all
up.
work so hard.
Yeah,
everywhere.
now shut the fuck up.
This
Do your
Thursday,
Now listen up.
we are launching the first ever government-wide initiative focused on economic empowerment
And you've been
for
bitching
women
about Russia so
in
much, I'm
developing
nuking them
countries.
tonight. Do we like
To
that?
build on... Thank you.
Here's some meaty policy that you can just really
To
sink
build
your
on our
teeth
incredible
into.
economic success,
development for women in developing
One priority
countries.
is paramount. Reversing decades of
paramount.
calamitous trade policies. So bad.
So bad.
We are now making it
You hate
clear
to see
No
in
way.
it.
China
You hate to see
You
it,
hate to
folks.
see bad trade
that after
policies,
years of
folks.
targeting
You hate to
our
see the
industry
negotiators in
and
Switzerland
stealing
with the
our
bad
intellectual
trade policies,
property,
folks. You hate it.
The theft of American jobs and wealth has come to an end.
We just ended everything bad.
Bad things ended, good things started.
This is all coded.
Therefore, we recently imposed tariffs on $250 billion of Chinese goods, and now our Treasury is receiving billions and billions of dollars. But I don't blame China for taking advantage of us.
China.
I blame our leaders
Stupid.
and representatives.
Dude,
That
I
would
got
have worked
some
a little better a few years
bad
ago,
news
bro.
for you.
I have great respect for President Xi, and we are now working on a new trade deal with China. But it must include real structural change to end
His
unfair
country
trade
is
practices,
the biggest in Asia.
reduce our chronic trade
It
deficit,
has many people.
and protect American jobs.
But it must have a sweatshop for my daughter's
And where it should have stopped
homebrew.
is at the deal stage, where they thought about it.
Can you give me a little
Another
Sam
historic
Harris,
trade
little
blunder
non-sequitur
was
whining,
the
please?
catastrophe
Liven
known as
things up.
NAFTA.
Yeah, I want to hear some Sam Harris.
I have
bitching.
met the men and women
That's the
of
first time you
Michigan,
ever heard that,
Ohio,
right? Sam Harris
Pennsylvania,
provides looks
Indiana,
Like I was correct again.
New Hampshire, and many
This is
other
indeed
states
boring.
whose dreams were shattered by the signing of NAFTA. For years, politicians promised them they would renegotiate for a better deal. But no one
Where's
ever
the Howard
tried
Schultz
until
material?
now.
Where's the Howard Schultz
Our
material?
new U.S.-Mexico-Canada
Did you see
agreement,
Let's
the
call them people of
USMCA, will
names,
replace
all right?
NAFTA
Let's stop calling them
and
billionaires.
deliver
Right.
for American workers like they haven't had delivered to for a long time. I hope you can pass the USMCA into law so that we can bring back our manufacturing jobs in even greater numbers, expand American agriculture,
He's not
protect
nearly as animated
intellectual property,
talking about this stuff.
and
as
Yeah,
he
ensure
this
is.
shit
that
bores him.
more
you know?
cars
Well, it is
He-
boring.
he doesn't
proudly
get
stand
it,
with
really.
our
Let me
four
just
beautiful
NAFTA,
words.
but also remind
Made
you
in the USA.
there are immigrants who kill people. So
What do you
It's
think about that?
important
Do
that
you
our
even
China
care?
trade deal with MS-13. Boy, they're doing bad stuff.
I'm getting a little bored with this NAFTA. Let me
Tonight,
just say,
I am also
immigrants.
asking you to
Still.
pass the United States
They come over
Reciprocal
borders just
Trade
like
Act,
VCRs and
so
stuff.
that if
Just
another
imagine
country
for a
places
moment
an unfair
A
tariff
girl taped up with
on an
blue
American
tape.
product,
Okay?
we can charge them the exact same tariff on the exact same product that they sell to us.
This is so deep.
This is so deep. It's a deep state.
Both parties should
Oh, I have a
be
prediction.
able to unite
Sean Hannity is going to
for a
say
great
home run.
rebuilding
Oh.
of America.
I don't know about that.
God, it's just like the Super Bowl in that it's like both boring and somehow violent
All right.
at the same
Take
time.
it easy.
And the bad guy's gonna win.
Take it easy. Take
Oh,
it,
stop, baby.
Take it easy. Everybody just
I know
back
that
off.
Congress
fucking
is eager to pass.
Is this a
an
sensitive
infrastructure bill.
topic?
Well, I
Fucking
it's just- it
whining
was a great
about the
suit.
Pats
Are you a
winning.
Pats fan?
We're all
It's a great-
every
great
person
Super
they're
Bowl,
fucking
and
done.
Pats,
Infrastructure investment.
rocked
Oh
it.
my god,
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was
Investments
walking
in
into.
the
matter?
Incredible.
cutting-edge
Oh,
industry.
I support the Pats for the
trouble
same
with
reason that I voted for Jill
fucking-
Stein.
Well,
I
the
am
trouble
an
is
accelerationist.
the trouble with journalists like Kath is they hate
Major
success.
priority
That's
for
right.
me
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
for
well-
all of
I hate
us
winners. You
should
know, I
be
want everyone to
lower
lose
the
like
cost
me.
of
They want.
healthcare
That's why she
and
rooted for the fucking
prescription
Rams.
drugs.
And
Well,
it's
I hope you
to
enjoyed
protect
losing with them.
journalists just
with
do keep
pre-existing
losing.
conditions.
Recently, we can't stop losing our jobs.
Fake news, folks.
Yeah,
Gotta do something about that.
Tommy's like that could have been me.
Hello.
In a parallel universe, that's me.
Got it. Hello.
It really
this
does
is
look
Mitt
like he's at a
Romney.
Mormon
Already
funeral.
as a result of my
Hello,
administration's
this is
efforts
Mitt Romney.
in 2018, drug prices experienced their single largest decline
That is really
in
good.
46 years.
Man, I can't wait to see what
just make sure you do it well.
Kessler's going to cream himself over in this.
But we must do more.
He really does. I'm going to go
It's
home after
unacceptable
this
that
and
Americans
watch,
pay
because I
vastly
won't be able
more
to
than
fall asleep
people
because of
in
the
other
fucking
countries
structure of these things.
for the
And I'm going to
exact
watch
same drugs,
some old Stern
often
Trump
made
interviews to
in the
remind
exact
myself of
same
what's actually fun
place.
to watch with this guy.
This is wrong. This is unfair.
It's like being gay in the 1950s.
And we'll stop it fast.
What is that from?
James Damore.
Oh my god!
Dude,
that is a fucking rich cut!
That's the Google.
That's the Google guy!
Fired for truth.
That's the
Fired for
yeah,
truth.
he's like, look, I told
I am
you
asking
bitches can't
Congress to
code, and
pass
now it's like being
legislation
gay in the 50s.
that finally takes on the problem of global freeloading and delivers fairness
Global
and
freeloading.
price transparency for
The thing with
American
James Damore, though, is
patients.
I read this piece about it in The Guardian. It was like, and what was actually devastating about it was the point of the piece was like he's very
We should
severely
also
on the
require
spectrum,
drug companies,
and there was like
insurance
actually like
companies, and
this is
hospitals
becoming a problem in
to
Silicon Valley
disclose real
because
prices
people like him are
to foster
getting fired,
competition
which actually there's
and
serious
bring
labor
costs
questions
way
there,
down.
and it's like a lawyer was essentially saying like if he could flip it and not be in this whole like anti-SJW nonsense, he might have a case
Ableism.
for like you're not
No force
you're
in
basically
history
not
has
treating
done
me the way
more
I should be
to
treated for
advance
like having
the human
a certain
condition
lack of understanding
than
around social
American
cues, and he
freedom.
was just like
In
he
recent
wasn't having
years,
it. He was more interested in
I was
getting back
simply
to stuff
trying
about
to
women.
That would be
fix
selling
the
out.
culture in many ways.
American freedom is the human condition, if you think about it. I have no way of knowing where we are in this speech.
in recent years, we have made remarkable
Are we
progress
halfway? Are we
in
a
the fight
quarter
against
of-
HIV and AIDS.
Oh, here we go. The
Scientific
big finish.
breakthroughs
Big
have
finish.
brought a once
Keep an eye on
distant
Pence.
He's going to
dream
talk about the monkey thing.
within reach.
It's working.
My budget
and it's
will
very
ask
exciting.
Democrats and Republicans to make the
I'm
needed
not gonna say
commitment
anything anymore.
to eliminate the HIV epidemic
I like that.
in
Sam's
the
got
United
the whole
States
spread out like,
within
this thing is
10 years. We have made incredible
He's really bad
strides.
at
Incredible.
acronyms. Also, on the campaign trail, he would always trip over being like
Competition would start kicking in.
LBGT. Sure, HIV is a real tongue twister.
HIV.
Well, and
HIV.
Together
Pence
we
is
will
making this
defeat
look
AIDS
like
in
it's a sin
America
to even
and
be
beyond.
discussing this.
I hate to work on anything that
Tonight I am also
doesn't
asking
directly
you to
affect
join
me,
me
but
Yeah.
in
whatever.
another fight
You know, it's like I
that all
can't see a
Americans
movie if
can
I
get
just
behind
can't see myself in the
to
protagonist.
fight against
I'm still
childhood
I still
cancer.
really do like the untreated syphilis school Trump conspiracy theory.
Yeah, sure, I'll buy into that.
I kinda
mean,
like that
there are
one.
holes in his brain. It's just how did they
get there?
Is it,
Are we talking speed?
He's
Are
going
we
after
talking
childhood
syphilis?
cancer, folks.
Joining
Come on.
Melania in the gallery this evening is a very brave 10-year-old girl.
maternal, very
Grace Eli.
genuinely maternal smile there.
Every birthday,
Melania contoured to the gods, just face beat to hell.
no good, really bad for you.
Cancer. You heard it here first. Bad.
Hot take.
No good, really bad for you. Jesus Christ.
Hi, Grace.
You're gonna scare
Every
this
birthday,
This poor girl, when she
Since
gets
she
old
was
enough
4,
to realize what's going on.
Grace
like,
asked
Holy.
her friends
God, that's
to
gonna
donate
be
to
years of
crazy
therapy.
for her.
Years
Holy
of
shit.
therapy.
She did not know that one day she might be a patient herself. That's what happened. Last year, Grace was diagnosed
She didn't
with
have
brain
the foresight
cancer.
because she's like 10 years old.
Immediately, she began radiation treatment. At the same time, she rallied her community and raised more than $40,000 for the fight against cancer.
Because that's what cancer treatment costs. You have to rely on charities because we don't have universal coverage that's free at the point of access. Fuck this. It's cool that we have this piecemeal charity system.
She proved if you want to be healthy, you got to be entrepreneurial about it.
Yeah, exactly. She held thousands of lemonade stands.
And Now the
When
Democrats
Grace
want to give everybody health
completed
care, but they're going
treatment
so
last
far to
fall,
the left.
Yeah.
Her
That I've heard
doctors
people are
and
leaving the
nurses
party.
cheered.
Isn't that right, Grace?
They loved her. They still love her. With tears in their eyes, as she hung up a poster that read,
MAGA.
"Last day of chemo."
That would
Free Covington.
She's like, Trump saved me. Trump care saved me. Again, I just need to say again, fuck this, that he's using all these poor people as props.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It sucks. It really sucks.
And any parent for
Thank
any
you very much,
president
Grace. You
that
are
would
a
let
great
a
inspiration
president
to
use
everyone
their
in this
kids
room.
like
Thank
this
you
as
very
props.
much.
Yeah,
I
every
just-
prop
I just-
over the age of 18, that's on
Disgusting.
them.
Oh, yeah.
Under the age of
I just
18,
realized we
that's
haven't
on their
gotten the
parents.
Jacob Trump.
My budget
Shout
will
out.
ask Congress for $500
That
million
must still be-
Oh,
over
that's
the
coming.
next 10 years.
I don't think we've
That's
had.
the closer.
I don't think we've had. Yeah, we haven't had the kid.
Maybe he'll-
Oh, Jacob Trump's
Maybe
the
it'll
kid
be
that
in
got bullied.
the in the context of a
parents,
shout out to Be Best.
The time has
Melania's
come to pass
anti-cyberbullying
school
thing.
choice
That makes
for
sense.
Americans' children.
They're saying that Jacob has a small penis, which is totally not true.
Jacob's classmates were
He's
tweeting.
now
what are
pushing,
those about his shoes?
Pushing Cory
every
Booker's
single day?
agenda here.
DeVos loving it.
Yep.
I am also proud to be the first president to include in my budget a plan for nationwide paid family leave so that every new parent has the chance to
Ivanka, a
bond
proven
with
record
their
of success.
newborn
Another
child.
Ivanka win.
Every new parent who is a cisgender woman.
He
There
also
could be
just
no
apparently
greater contrast
less than 6
to the
months ago,
beautiful
Trump
image
yanked
of a mother
funding for
holding her infant child
HIV/AIDS research
than the
to
chilling
fund his child
displays our
prisons.
nation saw in
So-
recent days.
Jeff Merkley just tweeted that out.
Lawmakers
What did he tweet?
in New York cheered
Hard to
with
take.
delight.
Let me just say, hard to take the president seriously about eradicating the transmission of HIV when less than 6 months ago he yanked funding from HIV/AIDS research to fund his child prisons.
These
Senator
are living,
Jeff
feeling
Merkley.
beautiful
God.
babies
Listen,
who
you know,
will
there's only
never
so
get
much
the
money.
chance to share
Right.
their love and their dreams
Gotta prioritize
with the world.
Gotta prioritize.
Like, what do you want to
And
do? Just keep
then
running
we
up
had
the
the
national
case
debt? Just
of the
recklessly
governor of
I was
spending?
going to say, you came in really hot in the collar
I'm
about
a
that.
deficit hog of the left.
To defend the dignity of every person, I am asking Congress to pass legislation
Trump definitely
to prohibit
believes this.
the late
No one defends
term
people's dignity like
abortion
Brett
of children
Kavanaugh.
who can feel pain.
Trump
in the
doesn't give a
mother's
shit
womb.
about abortion.
Absolutely
All of us
not.
feel like we're trapped in a barn fire.
Why not just cover me in a bucket of blood?
Let us work together to build a culture that cherishes innocent life.
Oh, like all the kids who die because they don't have health care.
Or the kids that have died after being in your child prisons.
God can do this. God can use this man.
I'm not like a Krasen bro who wants to be like, Trump's had affairs and stuff like that, but to hear him
And
pull
let us
any kind of
reaffirm
morality
a
play is
fundamental
really
truth.
something to
All
behold.
children, born and unborn, are
Go
made
back and listen to
in
him
the holy
calling
image of
up,
God.
what's
Oh my
the guy
God.
that
Final
AJ Benza was
part.
on Howard Stern's show,
no.
and
My
Stern calls
agenda
up to be like, AJ,
is to
you were in
protect
LA, and your girlfriend
American
was in New York, and you would not
security.
like where she was.
Over the last
Believe
2
me.
years, we
that
have
should be like just dropped
begun
over
to
every
fully
single
rebuild
abortion rally.
the United
They
States
don't care because he's
military.
giving them the
don't care.
Supreme Court
Seven-
justices.
That's right.
Yeah, even,
that's
right.
yeah,
That's
those
true.
evangelical
Last year.
But it is
leaders
totally
don't
transactional.
care. Yeah, it is. It
And
is.
And you know what?
Who can blame that? I
That
mean,
is
that,
They're right to not
exactly
care.
what
They're
they
more
should-
politically
Other
savvy
I
than
don't
people who
care
voted for Jill
Their
Stein.
fair
The greatest
share.
neoliberal in the world
Finally.
is responsible for getting us Medicare for all. I don't care.
Yeah, fine. Same.
That's why they don't care. He
Yeah.
has delivered everything
Kavanaugh and
to
his
them.
ilk will be chipping away at Roe v. Wade for
years, the United
decades and
States
decades.
Well, they won't
People
have to.
treated
They'll probably be
very
over with that
unfairly.
Yeah.
project
Nah.
within a year or two.
They don't
Like
care. They
friends
love
of
it.
ours.
Yeah, and it's with that in mind that we
Members
officially
of NATO.
endorsed Kamala Harris.
But now we have secured,
whoever can deliver Medicare
over the last
for all,
couple
right,
of
Sam?
years, more than
Howard Schultz.
$100 billion
Exactly.
I endorse a problem solver
in defense
with a proven record of success
from our NATO allies.
NATO.
They said it couldn't be done.
I think this is an intellectual curiosity expedition.
This is like a Sonic.
As part of our military buildup, the United States is developing a state-of-the-art missile defense system.
Are we really? Is it really? Are we
Under my
really building up?
administration,
I thought we were.
We will
bringing
never
everyone home,
apologize for
allegedly.
advancing America's interests.
We're
For
retreating into
example,
a defensive crouch.
decades ago, the United States entered into a treaty with Russia in which we agreed to limit and reduce our missile capability. While we followed the agreement and the rules to the letter, Russia repeatedly
Pompeo's a huge
violated its
anti-abortion
terms.
zealot, isn't
Yes,
he?
very
It's been
much
going on for many years.
Next to being super
That
anti-gay.
is why I announced that the United States
Why are they making us look at him for
is
so long?
officially withdrawing
He
from
really is a warthog
the
of a man.
intermediate-range
I'm
nuclear
so
forces
tough on
treaty,
Putin.
or
Toughest.
INF
Toughest on Putin.
Perhaps
Wink, wink.
I can't just stop grimacing. This is all. It's just,
we really have no choice. Perhaps we can negotiate a different agreement, adding
They
China
honestly,
and
I
others,
feel like if you had a
perhaps we
program like one of
in
those
which case we will
text-to-speech
outspend
programs,
and
it would deliver this
out-innovate
speech with
all
more
others
sort of like
Intonation,
heart and
yeah.
connection to the words. Honestly, the only time he got in any way animated where there was any type of flow to what he was saying.
that's when he was talking about the blood of Americans spilled by immigrants.
Yes.
Part of a
Yeah,
bold
no,
new
absolutely. You're
diplomacy.
totally right.
It's
We
stunning.
continue
Yeah.
our
You think
historic
he's going to talk
push
about how he beat
for
Hillary
peace
again?
on the Korean.
wish.
It's
Just want to
amazing
remind
because-
everybody, if it
hostages
wasn't
have
just
come
about
home.
electoral college, I would have a different
Nuclear
strategy. I would have won
testing
that
has
too.
stopped.
It was particularly striking on the
And there has
abortion
not been
portion
a
because
missile
that's such an
launch
emotional
in
issue
more
for
than
people, and
15
he
months.
just just tossed
If I
off,
had
you
not
know.
been elected president
Again, I don't know
Sounds
how.
like NAFTA.
Yeah, exactly. I don't. Yeah,
Right
like
now,
it, as
in my
dry
opinion,
as
Yeah.
trade
in a
policy.
major
I
it's
don't know
like-
how
with North
anyone can
Korea.
buy anything he says.
Well, abortion is just gross girl stuff.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
he doesn't like it.
right.
Much work
Bob doesn't
remains
wanna think
to be
about
Oh,
it.
done,
we got the star of SNL
but my
there, Crenshaw.
relationship with Kim Jong-un is a good one.
We love
Chairman
each other.
Kim and I will meet again on February 27th and 28th in Vietnam.
That guy is such an asshole. Back to Pete Davidson. Like, if you need to do that because you're on
2 weeks
SNL,
ago, the
like, hey,
United
you know what?
States
I'm sorry.
officially
I'm sorry I made fun of you
recognized
missing an eye.
the
Incidentally,
legitimate
while you're here,
government
why
of
are you a white
Venezuela.
supremacist?
and
He
its
doesn't
new
decide. He
president.
doesn't make those choices.
Well, fair enough. As a stand-in for the whole failure of that show.
Incidentally,
Yeah, it's no, seriously. Like,
incidentally, how about you guys tell a joke every once in a while?
right, that might also be helpful. Although, to
he
be honest
talking
with you, I
about
couldn't
nukes
comment.
right
I haven't
now?
watched
We stand
SNL
with
in
the
a really long
Venezuelan
time.
people
I don't know whether it's funny or not.
in their noble
Maybe
quest
SNL's
for
really
freedom.
funny and I'm missing
Oh,
it.
please tell us about
We
in the
Venezuela.
late
condemn the
90s,
Definitively
I went
not.
in to
of
do
the Maduro
to meet with him to do some short films for
whose
them.
socialist policies
And
have
I was
turned
pitching
that
them,
nation
and I can't. For the
from
life of
being
me, I
the
can't remember who it
wealthiest
was.
in South
I don't want to
America
say the name because I'm not
into
sure
a
it was him.
Lauren
state
Michaels.
We got
No,
Maduro.
no,
We're talking
no,
Maduro
and
and socialism.
despair.
And the,
Wait, is this a coup section?
He's talking about
This is the coup.
Venezuela.
This is the coup
Is this
section.
the coup section
Yep.
of the speech?
Yeah, it went from being the wealthiest
Here in the
country
United
to the poorest.
States,
We're doing coup talk.
We are alarmed by the new calls to adopt socialism in our country.
Socialism in our time.
America
both
was
sides in a
founded
row.
on liberty and independence and not government coercion, domination, and control. We are born free and we will stay free.
But Venezuela.
Hashtag just
Not
like
for long.
Venezuela.
Yeah, that's right. Bernie's making the right face.
Fuck you.
Although
We'll see about
he
that.
got a mealy-mouthed statement about
We'll see
Venezuela,
about that.
if you ask me.
Tonight, we renew our resolve
He did.
that America will never
Within
be
the consensus.
a
I mean,
socialist
I
country.
definitely heard from like some
we'll see
that
about
basically
that.
the Venezuelan government was like good enough.
Over your dead body.
They're not talking about Venezuela anymore. They're talking
they're
about
talking here.
Now he's just promising.
He pivoted very conveniently to promise America will never be a socialist country.
They're scared.
Why aren't they
They're
zooming in
scared.
on Bernie and
USSR.
AOCS? Like,
USSR.
You scared? You scared? You
The United
scared?
States of
And have for
Venezuela is
many
coming
years.
for you, bitch.
Is in the Middle East.
Of course, I pretended that Maduro stole
Our
elections because I'm
approach
trying
is
to create
based on
Venezuela here.
principle,
Have a little strategy. you
realism.
dumb fucks.
Not discredited theories that have failed for decades
USSR.
to yield progress. For this reason, my administration
Get those white guys.
recognized
Get
the
'em.
true capital
Get
of
'em.
Israel and proudly opened the American embassy in Jerusalem.
Oh my God!
It's weird how he ties all these.
Wasn't that more than a year ago?
That was over a year ago. Israel's an apartheid state.
It's funny.
Got so little done.
It's
Oh
funny how
my
he ties
Lord.
all three of those issues together.
Yeah, liberals could learn something from him.
Our brave troops have now been fighting in the Middle East for almost 19 years. In Afghanistan and Iraq, nearly 7,000 American heroes,
This is the part
have
where
given their
like the
lives.
broken clock.
more
right,
than 52,000
once a day.
Americans
Well, he's not doing anything
have
about
been
it.
badly
Right.
wounded.
Well, but he is saying
We
like
have
these are
spent
endless
more
wars that
than
we've
$7
spent lives
trillion
and a shit ton of money on.
in
Wow,
fighting
he
wars
really
in
did
the
not
Middle
stay
East.
long on Israel.
As a candidate
No.
for president, I loudly pledged a new approach.
Because I talk loud.
Great nations do not fight endless wars.
Then America is not a great nation, right? It's playing a little logic there. Thank you.
When I took office, ISIS controlled more than 20,000 square miles in Iraq and Syria just 2 years ago. Today, we have liberated virtually all of the territory
There's so little that's
from the
new
grip
here.
of these bloodthirsty monsters.
That was the Kurds. That was
Now,
literally libertarian
As
socialists.
we work with our allies to destroy the remnants of ISIS, it is time to give our brave warriors in Syria a warm welcome home. I have also accelerated our negotiations to reach, if possible, a political settlement in Afghanistan. The opposing side is also very happy to be negotiating.
You're talking about
Our
the Taliban.
troops have fought
Folks,
with
I'm hearing
unmatched
there's
valor,
a lot of speech.
and thanks to their bravery,
Are you serious?
Buckle in.
we are now able
quote,
to
a
pursue
lot. Yeah.
a possible
I told you it could be an hour and a
political
half.
solution
God damn
to
it.
this long
Jesus.
and bloody
Motherfucker,
conflict.
man.
He's going to end in the next 10 minutes.
He's got it in the next 10 minutes.
I
He's
hope
running
it
out of
just
steam.
goes. Well, it's scripted for much longer.
But think positive.
Honestly, I'll
And
become an undecided voter in 2020 if he just will end this
In
ahead of
Afghanistan,
schedule.
seriously.
My
And if Stacey Abrams
administration
could just come out and go, he's a
is
racist
holding
dumb fuck, thank
constructive
you.
talks
I'm one of
And then,
the-
with a
and then
number
Bernie
of
can just say
Afghan
billionaires, and then we can get
including
the fuck out of here.
I'm one of those,
Taliban.
just millions upon millions of
As
Bernie
we make
voters
progress
who
in
then
these
turned around and voted for
negotiations,
Trump. That's
we will be able to reduce
a
our
real
troops'
thing
presence
that
course.
people
and
definitely
focus on
did.
counter-terrorism,
overwhelming.
and we
Yeah.
will indeed
Everyone was
focus
doing it.
on
I mean,
counter-terrorism.
they discovered the real reason I opposed
We do
Hillary
not
was
know
I just don't
whether
I want single
we'll
payer,
achieve
but I
an
also never
agreement.
want a woman president.
But we do know that after 2 decades of war, the hour has come to at least try for peace, and the other side would like to do the same thing. It's time.
All right, that's good. Good.
If you
good.
can do
Get
that-
out of Afghanistan.
All right,
fucking
folks,
great.
that was a great
Good.
that was a great speech.
All right, you know what? Good. You ended on a strong note. Why don't you wrap it up, you dumb fuck? Thank you.
Pelosi clapped
Above
at the
all,
socialism
friend and
bit,
foe
by the
alike
way.
must never doubt
Oh, because Pelosi's
the
whack.
nation's power
I already know
and
that.
will
This is not
to
news.
defend
Just to
our
read
She
it.
was
Conrad
doing it out of
Pelosi.
decorum.
18 years ago,
It was decorum. I actually
Violent
secretly have an
terrorists
MS-13
attacked the
lover and
USS
want
Cole.
socialism.
And last month, American forces killed one of the leaders of that attack.
Yeah, baby!
The era of the pajama boy is over.
Wow, that makes me feel really old. Pajama Boy feels like it was a million
We
years
are honored
ago.
to be joined tonight by Tom Wibberley, whose son, Navy
yeah,
Seaman
dude.
Craig Wibberley, was one of the 17 sailors
I'm running out of fumes.
we
I got
tragically
nothing.
lost.
Please stop
Tom,
talking.
He's
we
outlasted
vow
all of
to
us.
always
We knew this was
remember
He absolutely
the
has.
heroes of the USS Cole. Thank you, Tom.
It's like, it really is amazing though when you get to that point where it's like the guy is a fascist. Like, don't be a pedant. He's presides over this disgusting white supremacist government, but you just get to a point. But he's also can be funny. You just get to a point where it's like, I'm not even angry anymore.
That
Just-
is
just wrap it up.
that
My
is
administration
the competitive
has acted
advantage you get
decisively
when
to
you're
when you
confront
chop
the
up
world's
Adderall
leading
and
Right.
snort
state
it.
sponsor of terror. The
That's-
radical
that's
So
brain-
why
that's
didn't
brain
we? I think
juice.
we're going to need to do that if we're going to do this
It is
next
a
year.
See,
We're
that's-
all gonna
that's
need
the
to
problem.
be
That's
in
why
the
we're not
same-
on
what?
his level.
I'll tell you
Yeah,
something.
we're not on his
Bad,
level.
bad
Right.
That
things
drug did
to
not.
ensure this
That was
corrupt
nowhere around.
dictatorship
Like I never even
never
heard of that
acquires
drug until I was
nuclear
well
weapons.
into my probably
I
like
withdrew
40s.
the United
for
States
90s kids,
from
right?
Yeah.
disaster.
Yeah, that's a very
Adderall?
90s
So
drug.
Oh, yeah.
next
Right,
year,
he was just starting on actual speed.
next year, I am open to doing that. I don't know.
I'm
Is
telling
that legal?
you, I
Can we
might have
get-
to like.
It's
Yeah,
prescription.
well, it's a prescription, so to buy it isn't exactly legal. But
Hey, you know,
But I may have a
figure this
short
out.
period of time where I need a prescription,
toughest
and next year we'll try
ever
it just
imposed by us on
as
the
an
country.
experiment to see if the speech
We
goes
will
quicker.
not
I'm free. Thanks for
avert
asking.
our
No,
eyes
I
from a
actually
regime
think it'll go
that
slower
chants
because
death
you're kind of more.
to
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
and
it's
threatens
upbeat.
genocide.
Oh, that
Oh
sounds
yeah,
terrible.
yeah. Speaking as someone who
The
takes
Jewish
speed every
people.
day, no.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
never-
actually bad.
Never take stimulants and go to the airport, for instance.
Yeah, you should do something fun.
Because you're like,
All right, so
oh
what
man,
can
I
we
could
take
outrun
that's
this
going to make
plane.
the speech seem like it's quicker?
I'm just gonna.
I'll take
double,
that.
Cyanide.
I'm just gonna
Quaaludes?
double
Do
down
they
on
still
getting
say-
high again.
Can I buy Quaaludes?
I think it's
somewhere?
alcohol is the answer. You just need to
Yeah.
drink more.
LSD.
I've got news for you. It ain't working.
I want to
must
trip next
confront
year.
this
Oh,
hate
The alcohol
God.
is not working.
Yeah, I want to
Acid.
strip.
everywhere it occurs.
Okay, wait a
Road
second.
trip.
Just months ago, 11 Jewish Americans
Oh,
were viciously murdered in an anti-Semitic attack on the Tree of Life synagogue.
And people
in
didn't
Pittsburgh.
want you to come to the synagogue.
SWAT officer Timothy Matson raced into the gunfire.
I'm going to praise
And was
the
shot
only
7
non-Jew
times.
involved in
Yeah,
this.
that.
he's praising
There was
the
one-
cop. He's
there was-
praising the cop.
While
was
the
very
Jews
successful.
scrambled for their shekels, one
Timothy
brave
just
guy
had
rescued
his
them.
12th surgery, and he's going in for many more. But he made the trip to be here with us tonight. Officer Matson, please.
All right, props.
Oh, P.S. He also bragged about pulling out of the Iran deal while we were all talking about Adderall, which is it's cool. It's great.
I would rather talk about Adderall.
Yeah, he's been bragging about pulling out of the Iran deal for years. That was, by the way, the
The
Iran
only,
deal.
the only time he's ever pulled out.
Was it Reagan?
Folks?
Was
Whoa.
it Reagan who started this whole thing? Where it's like, I want to point out somebody in the audience. I think Reagan. I'm not sure about that, but I feel like Reagan was the first one to say, "We have a hero in our audience tonight," and it's just
We have a
He
hero.
was the first one to make the whole referencing guests a thing.
He is?
As I'm asking.
I think he might have been.
That's
Yeah.
His name is
sounds
General.
right.
His name's General
Thank you.
Smuts.
We are
He works
forever
with the
grateful.
South
Thank
African
you.
Because they
government.
really do use the guests
here
to
tonight.
spur it
Tonight we
onward.
are also joined by
He's been working to
Pittsburgh
protect
survivor
that country from a
Judah
horrible
Summit.
organization called the
He arrived
African
at the
National
synagogue
Congress.
as-
He-
Uncle was
Oh,
Cecil
they
Rhodes.
managed to
began.
find someone who would come.
But not
I want
only
to
did
thank
Judah
someone.
narrowly escape
I want to thank
death
this man for
last
bringing
fall,
all of these diamonds
more than 7
that
decades
he
ago.
brought in.
He
We're going to
narrowly
use those
survived
diamonds to
the
fund
Nazi
some arms purchases to
concentration
send
camps.
to our friends
Today is
in El
Judah's
Salvador.
81st birthday.
Are they going to sing Happy Birthday?
Wait, 81?
I guess.
Who's 81? Who's this guy?
He's a survivor of the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting.
Bless. What a mitzvah. All right.
Nazi
let's wrap it
camps,
up.
he would have been a baby. Like literally 1 or 2 years old.
Can we read a clip out? Yeah, they did it. Yeah,
I'm really clairvoyant about
You know
this.
what?
Yeah.
You say it's
Yours
boring and you complain, but you nail it.
The writing this season has really gotten sloppy.
Right? Yeah. I don't like this arc.
This is neoliberalism
I
on the march.
I hope there's a lawsuit for the unlicensed singing of that on national television.
It's public domain now.
Is it?
Yeah,
Pretty
it
sure,
is.
yeah.
I think so.
That must have happened in the past year or two.
Last couple years.
Oh, what he shout at Trump?
They wouldn't do that for me, Judah.
Mike Dermott, Sandwich.com.
Yeah, that's
says
what he
he can
shouted.
still remember the exact moment nearly
MikeDermott.com.
75 years ago, after 10 months in a concentration camp, when he and his family were put on a train and told they were going to another camp. Suddenly, the train screeched to a very strong halt.
Has there been anybody else
A
who's
soldier
ever made you
appeared.
take the Holocaust
Judah's
as not
family
seriously
braced
as this guy?
for the
He
absolute
could literally be
worst.
talking
Then his
about
father
anything and
cried
just
out
be like,
with
yeah,
joy,
right.
"It's the
Fucking move it
Americans!
on,
It's
dude."
the Americans!"
I don't know. He might be neck and neck with Justin Bieber.
I like Justin Bieber. Let's go with Justin Bieber.
Like, if Anne Frank were alive today, I think she'd be a MAGA chud.
No, Anne Frank were alive today. She
Wow,
would
that
be
is the
a
hottest
Bieber.
take I've heard all day. I would love to discuss that for the rest
That
of
was
the
a
show.
Bieber take.
Anne Frank is in the attic being like, but they do have a point about order.
Yeah.
Thank you. A second Holocaust survivor.
No, Anne Frank
Who's here
would be
tonight?
getting doxxed
Joshua
by Proud
Kaufman.
Boys on
He's
Twitter.
really just
Was
rolling
a
out
prisoner at Dachau.
his Jewish friends now.
He remembers
And
watching
my friend Mel
through a hole in the
Bernstein
wall
sold diamonds.
of a cattle car
And
as
then-
American soldiers rolled in with
And
tanks.
my friend Simon
To
Witzer.
me, Joshua recalls the American soldiers were proof that God exists, and they came down from the sky. They
You guys
came
ever
down
read The
from
Ghost
heaven.
Writer?
I
Like
began
Matt
this
has.
evening
We are enormously
No?
privileged
by
to be able to
honoring
do the
three
jobs
soldiers
we do, and this is
who
definitely the
fought
first time
on
where I'm
D-Day
like, this is real work.
in the Second World War. One of them was Herman Zaitchik.
Just make sure
But
you
there
do
is
it well
more to
and you
Herman's
do it with
story.
passion.
A year after he stormed the beaches of Normandy,
Matt's saving
Herman
us
was
tonight, man.
one of the American soldiers
This is a bookend. He was talking
who
about
helped
D-Day at the beginning
liberate
of the speech.
Dachau.
Right.
It's called an act.
And what is Aleppo?
Did the head fake. Thought I was going to talk about the 6-year-old named Trump and just went with the old guy.
Because Trump actually is a bully. Like, so he actually brought that kid to the State Union to bully him, like to ignore him. I kind of owns, actually.
Kid, this is going to make what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah, this is going to make what
Keep
all
that
those
in
other middle schoolers have been doing to you seem like nothing. I'm not even going to acknowledge you.
It's the best
was
of both
one of the
worlds because the kids will
Americans
bully
who
him even more because he
helped
was there,
rescue
but he doesn't get to
Joshua
be acknowledged by me.
from that hell on earth.
Owned.
Almost 75 years
No,
later,
he's going to get to the kid.
Herman
'Cause
and
this is never
Joshua
gonna
are
stop.
course.
both
You
together
close on your best song.
I'm going to
okay?
do,
in the gallery
look,
tonight, seated side
Don't
by
stop
I can't do the
believing.
best
here in the home
State of the Union address,
of
but I can do
American
the
freedom.
longest.
Yeah.
Herman and Joshua.
God.
Your presence this evening is very much appreciated.
Our-
Thank you very much.
He hasn't even given me like a wouldn't it be funny if Obama said that moment?
Hey, do you guys remember when I beat Hillary? What's she up to?
Yeah.
This is
hey,
beanbag.
you guys remember when I beat Hillary in the LA primary? What's she up to?
I would be disappointed if he doesn't do Lock Her Up.
Dodging prosecutors?
Lock her up.
He's talking about Roger Stone.
Thank you.
Justice for Roger
I
Stone.
would
Is
definitely
he gonna
like to
shout
see
out?
it.
American
Yeah, where's the
soldiers
Roger
set out
Stone section of the
beneath
beat?
the dark skies over the English Channel. in the early hours
I
of
mean,
D-Day, 1944.
you have to start to wonder if the strategy is
They were just young
I'm going to go
men
so long
of 18
that no
and
one's going to
19,
watch the
hurtling
rebuttal.
on fragile landing
Maybe.
craft
Of course,
Maybe.
I
toward the
think that
most
is. I think that
momentous
is
battle
total valid
in
speculation.
the history of war.
I'm
a
That's
just
filibuster.
exactly
They
the
did
type
not
of just
know
like
if they would
messy
survive the
bitch
hour.
who loves drama move that he would
They
make.
did not know
Suicide may
would
be the
roll.
only option.
they knew that America
Don't give
had
me
to
don't give
prevail.
me the idea. What floor are we on
Their
again?
cause was this nation
I love that.
and generations yet unborn.
No one's even going to be awake
Why
to watch Stacey.
did they do it? They did
I
it
just
for
spoke
America.
and spoke and spoke.
They did it for us.
This is how he
Everything
announces that he's reinstating
that
the
has come
draft,
since.
except for Border Patrol,
Our triumph,
a national
over
mandatory
communism.
service.
our giant
Where
leaps
he said
of
the C
science and
word.
discovery, our unrivaled progress towards equality and justice.
Oh, my Lord.
All of it is
Ask the
possible
mom.
thanks to the blood and tears and courage and vision
The blood
of
and
the
soil.
Americans
The
who
blood
came
and
before. Think of this Capitol. Think of this very chamber where lawmakers before you voted to end slavery, to
What does
build the
this have to do with the
railroads
State of the
and the
Union?
highways,
Absolutely nothing.
and defeat fascism, to
He's,
secure
Oh, yeah.
civil
There's
rights,
actually this is almost impressive now. It's like
and to face
to even
down
point out
evil
that he would have been like on
empires.
the other side of those votes feels
Here
happy.
tonight,
He's,
You're just, like,
he's,
submitting
he's
to how
one
boring
beat away
this
from
is.
being like, did
From
you know
across this
Abraham Lincoln was a
magnificent
Republican?
republic.
A lot of
You have
people,
come
particularly
from
black
the
people,
rocky
don't know
shores
that.
of Maine
So really, you
and
should you
the
should be thanking
volcanic
and voting
peaks
for
of Hawaii.
Republicans.
from the snowy
Oh,
hills
yeah,
of
yeah, you
Wisconsin,
know,
This is
ah.
lifting my
Oh.
spirits
Of
immensely. Thank
Arizona.
you. I
from
needed
the
this.
Just
green
keep 'em
farms
going,
of
man.
Kentucky and
Oh
the
my God, he's
golden
like Tom
beaches
Perez.
of
He's
California.
naming every state.
Can you give me a Harris?
Together we represent
The Golden Beaches,
the
let 'em
most
burn.
extraordinary nation in all of history.
Smooth jam.
What will we do?
Oh, yeah.
How will we be remembered? I ask the men and women of this
I
Congress.
kind of feel like I'm having a stroke,
Look
but in
at the
a good way.
opportunities
Right.
I don't.
before us.
I feel like I'm having a
stroke.
I'm
stroke.
having like an out of body
Our
experience,
most
and I've only had a
thrilling
few
achievements.
beers.
I feel like I'm having a stroke in a
are
bad
still
way.
ahead. Our most exciting journeys,
Feels like being
still awake.
inside like a Vic Berger video.
our biggest victories
Hell yeah.
are still to come.
Yeah.
We
You
have
can't get out.
not
You're
yet
pounding.
Yeah, you can.
begun to
Except
dream.
there isn't like, oh, Gavin.
We
McInnes
must
said
choose
that. Ha, ha,
whether
ha,
we
what
are
an asshole.
defined by our
living
differences
Yeah,
next to
right.
them.
You're just
or
actually
whether
next
we
to
dare
Gavin McInnes, and it's
to
fucking
transcend them. We must choose
having
whether
flashbacks
we
to Ozzy
squander
Fest.
This has got to be.
our great
He's got to be
inheritance,
powering up for the end.
or whether
this
we
has got to
proudly
be.
declare
I'm starting to
that
think
we
that
are
the litmus
Americans.
test for any
We do the
Democrat in
incredible.
Congress is to eliminate the
we
State of the
defy
Union.
the impossible.
I was so
That's the-
optimistic.
that's the-
We weren't
Conquer
going
the
to get it this
unknown.
year. It is so
This
unnecessary.
is
Do it
the
in writing.
time.
Do it in
Maybe
writing. No
maybe
one
that's why
cares.
he's
Night.
doing this. Maybe he's doing this
The
for us, so we
American
never have to sit through
imagination.
another one of these boring
This is the
assemblies
time to
again.
He
search
wants us to have the content.
for the
It's a
tallest
gift to
summit
content creators everywhere.
and set our sights on
Fuck
the
you
brightest
forever. That's my
star.
common quote I say. It's fuck
This
you
is
forever.
the
We're done.
time to rekindle the bonds of love and loyalty and memory that link us together as citizens,
What is it? What is that?
as
What is
neighbors,
That's Gavin
as
McInnes.
Oh,
bitching that he doesn't have friends anymore.
This is
and all his neighbors hate him.
No, that was
And
pre
our
neighbors.
choice to
Free
make.
the neighbors.
That was
hating
more
him. That
like
was
all his
his
I am
comedy friends
asking
abandoning
you
him.
Oh,
to choose
so sweet.
Oh, I
greatness.
fucking love that.
How
dude.
No
sweet
matter
it
the
is.
trials
Such a good
we face,
Every once
purgatory
in a
for
while, there's
Gavin.
still a good
no matter
thing
the
that-
challenges
that-
to come,
that breaches through.
we must go forward together. We must keep America
one-
first
And maybe
in
we
our
need
hearts.
a solution to it that risks the imagination of a new kind of possibility.
And we must always
It's like
keep
I always
faith
say, one small step
America's
for,
destiny.
that
one nation
mankind
under God must be
All
the
right,
hope
thank you. Good night.
and the promise and the light and the glory
I want him to go off doing
the nations of the world.
I can't believe I got through all
Thank
these
you,
different.
God bless
I said
you,
all
adjectives.
those words.
and God bless America.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh my God, you USA.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
90 minutes.
That was
I
long
told you.
as
fucking
hell.
Yeah.
Communism will win.
I take no
folks.
pleasure in being right about
Can we get some like victory music? I feel like I'm winning right now. Okay.
This one got a decent reception in the press. This is exactly the type of shit that mediocre fucking centrist pundits eat up. He made some peons to politeness and civility. He acknowledged, he's talked about women voting.
He acknowledged
This,
Holocaust
he acknowledged
survivors.
Holocaust
Literally,
survivors.
he's like, how can you come at me? I acknowledge Holocaust survivors, families of murder victims, and vets.
he's woke.
Totally
this is
accepted
woke.
the Holocaust happened.
And you know what's
And
going
I
to
get
happen?
no
You know-
credit.
I get
no
no
credit.
You know what's going to happen too is that like for the real like the Chris Salizzas are going to go. This is an amazing speech, and I don't know why he's not getting more
I
credit
think
from
this
Democrats.
This is the speech
But
where
the-
he finally became president.
But
Totally.
that's what
Twice over.
Salizza will say. But the like ones who have to like pretend that they're not complete airheads, their columns I predict are going to be like, "This speech was incredible. Where was this man the last 2 years?"
And the
he
funny
may have
is-
lost his opportunity to lead, but we saw what could have been. I swear to God,
Yeah,
David Axelrod
that's
might
it.
tweet that
Yes.
out.
Yeah, and the funniest part about that is he had his dick out the whole time.
The whole time I was talking about the Holocaust, I was rubbing one out for Mike, and no one even knew. But Mike saw it, and I told him he was going to get AIDS from seeing it.
Yeah, joke's on y'all.
You gotta give me credit for acknowledging the Holocaust happened, though. I mean, come on.
I mean, I don't want to get into specific numbers, but something
that's growth.
happened.
That's personal growth.
Something happened.
He's been talking to Jared about it a lot, and he's like, all right.
And then there was a big guy, a big tough guy who came in and
Incredible,
saved all the little
unsung-
Jews while they were getting shot.
An incredible unsung success.
There was nothing about Roger Stone, so cuck.
Or about locking
Yes,
up all
of
the
course.
Democratic pedophile protectors.
How do you feel if you are Paul Manafort right now?
I feel like
Wow.
You're
this
not feeling
gambit
much.
of,
Your
like,
your foot is falling off from gout, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. You did appreciate the what was the rhyme that he did about the
I have
the
that. We'll play
investigation?
that in the first bit of the
you can't
show for
investigate if you
We'll have
don't
Masturbate.
masturbate.
It's like,
Can't-
it's like I'm
We'll
always
have-
saying.
Can't investigate if you don't executive time masturbate.
If there's no
If there's going to be peace and legislation, there cannot be war and investigation.
a fucking A, dude.
Hell yeah, nailed it.
Rolls right off
Nailed
the
it.
tongue. That is a quotable Trumpism.
That does sound like something you'd say to your like girlfriend if she was like asking to see your texts.
And then you wouldn't have a girlfriend anymore.
Yeah, you would, because it would be the best.
We
words.
want peace and legislation.
I
What
don't-
else? Yeah, peace and legislation.
Those two
Instead-
things we always talk about together.
Diplomacy first.
Yeah, diplomacy first.
peace and legislation, can't have
We'll play that in
investigation.
the opening bit for tomorrow's show.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
I like how he laid out the choices very clearly that we can either have Trump or socialism.
That was a good part.
Yeah, I buy it.
And
socialism or
I
barbarism,
think
folks.
I know exactly where I fall on that one.
It's a good sign that they have to explicitly say that.
He also mentioned communism, which, I think the Overton window is actually edging.
They get it in my head.
I mean, the fact that he even feels the need to talk about it
Each
is,
time he
like,
said
pretty
socialism,
cool.
I was edging.
You know what it reminds
Same.
me? What's that great? I forget. It was some right wing idiot. They tried to get Bernie at a book signing, and they were like,
to sign said, please say capitalism is best, and he's like, I'm not going to do
yeah,
it.
and they were like, would you sign this manual by like Adam Smith or something like that? And he just looks up. He's like, no, I will not. He just
Bernie
doesn't
takes
want-
no
Yeah,
shit.
He's
No, I
pretty
will not.
unfuck with him.
He does not
Really,
suffer
like-
fools that one.
AOC and Bernie's stoicism when the socialism thing happened.
Yeah,
was
they
the
did.
story.
Did
to
you
me.
Everybody else looked goofy as fuck. Trump was talking nonsense. All of the idiots felt like they needed to clap. And AOC and Bernie representing this perfect generational contrast, but both from New York, which is kind of funny, just sat there like, you people are idiots. It's happening.
Did you see there was a video today from some Daily Caller shithead confronting Bernie about, what do you have to say about the Fairfax allegations out of Virginia? And Bernie's like pantomiming. He's got his phone up. Did you see this?
No.
Oh, and he's like, oh, I'm on the phone. And he gets really up in arms about like basically get out of my grill. I'm on the phone. And he takes his phone away, and it's just like on the contact screen. So obviously, so he was just pretending to be on the phone.
Bernie was?
To dodge.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Expect more transparency from Bernie. Than
You know what?
But it was a Daily Caller guy.
Yeah,
so I'm really on the fence about that. I wouldn't give them the time of day
don't answer them. Fuck
for
them.
anything.
I have to say, this. Speaking of responding to socialism, so like Matt Duss, who's Bernie's foreign policy advisor, who's a really I know him a little bit. He's a very good guy. He's definitely legitimately left, but a foreign policy advisor who went through the Washington D.C. think tank system. Just for context,
the Blob.
So he quote tweets Waleed Shahid saying, "Trump, America will never be a socialist country," and then the split photos of Bernie and AOC we were talking about. And Duss quote tweets that and writes, "The socialism just got 10 feet higher."
Exactly.
That's definitely a shift. That is definitely a shift.
Yo, you know what Kanye says? Your haters are your biggest fans.
Haters equal motivators.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as bad publicity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tonight was a socialism won tonight.
Socialism
you want to talk about
tonight.
winners and losers?
We all know who the haters are.
Oh, yeah.
Very few of them prosper.
Socialism and communism, dark horse, waiting in the wings. We'll see.
I wonder if
absolutely.
O'Reilly's tweeting tonight. Actually, that's a good.
Now,
that's a good thing to look
what's
at.
the
tweeting another
when
word for
do we
Too
know
busy shoving some
when
woman down the
Stacey Abrams?
stairs.
As I'm actually excited to hear
his wife?
Stacey Abrams.
It's supposed to be. I thought it was supposed to be directly after.
It should be on any second.
It's going to be on any second. We got to keep. An eye
Okay,
out.
here's Bill O'Reilly. Good speech. The president helped his re-election chances. Tough to hate Trump. Media spin to negative.
Right. Oh, is that what he wrote?
Tough for hate Trump
Oh,
media.
I thought you were making that up.
No, this is literally
that sounded
good speech.
so-
Trump helped his re-election
Like an
chances.
illiterate wrote
Tough
it.
for hate Trump media to spin negative.
Went out on a limb, acknowledged the existence of the Holocaust. Pretty good stuff.
Bernie
And the
Sanders.
media is still criticizing
Oh,
me.
this one's this socialism really won. Bernie Sanders sunburned and not happy about attacks on socialism.
How come the media?
I'm going to quote.
Media
tweet.
is giving Trump virtually no credit for acknowledging Holocaust.
I'm going to do O'Reilly slowly dying. And
Do we know? Are we on the? We got to make sure because it's got to be on now. No. Is that right?
that's weird. I thought it was supposed to be really.
Get it going, Stacey.
Stacey, come on.
Missed opportunity.
How long do you make a white man wait? Is it a tech problem? Because she should be on right now.
They just retweeted some fans.
It's not up. Of his speech, I mean, I got to be honest. I paid attention to about 65% of it. It was
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
65%. That's impressive.
and I think honestly, the only time he was animated when he was talking about the anti-immigrant stuff.
Blood and soil.
I gotta be I think it's what we anticipated for the most part. I don't think that they're going to spend the next 2 years running on the existence of the Holocaust. Although that there was,
Although I would love that.
I mean, literally, there was probably 10 minutes.
When was the last time you heard Pocahontas say the Holocaust happened?
Well, and he kept talking about D-Day too. It was really some, just scraping the barrel of American exceptionalism.
He did a minute or two on the idea that it is an anniversary for women getting the vote, and then it
trying
was,
to kind of steal that.
Yet even when they came home weary
here we go.
and bone tired, my parents found a way to show us all who we could be.
My librarian mother taught us to love learning. My father, a shipyard worker, put in overtime and extra shifts, and they made sure we volunteered
just let me say
to help
out
others.
front, the election was
Later, they
stolen
both became
from
United
her.
Methodist ministers.
Voter
an expression of
suppression
the
on a
faith
mass
that guides
scale.
us. These were our family values: faith, service, education, and responsibility.
Wow, it's
now,
it's
we only had one
incredible.
car.
Just like she actually
so sometimes
seems
my
to
dad
have
had to
some animation
hitchhike
about
and
her.
walk long stretches during the 30-mile trip home from the shipyards. One rainy night, my mom got worried. We piled in the car and went out looking for him. And we eventually found my dad making his way along the road, soaked and shivering in his shirt sleeves. When he got in the car, my mom asked if he'd left his coat at work. He explained that he'd given it to a homeless man he'd met on the highway. When we asked why he'd given away his only jacket, my dad turned to us and said, "I knew when I left that man he'd still be alone, but I could give him my coat because I knew you were coming for me." Our power and strength as Americans lives in our hard work and our belief in more. My family understood firsthand that while success is not guaranteed, we live in a nation where opportunity is possible. But we do not succeed alone. In these United States, when times are tough, we can persevere because our friends and neighbors will come for us. Our first responders will come for us. It is this mantra, this uncommon grace of community, that has driven me to become an attorney, a small business owner, a writer, and most recently, the Democratic nominee for governor of Georgia.
And rightful governor.
My reason for running was simple. I love our country and its promise of opportunity for all. And I stand here tonight because I hold fast to my father's credo. Together, we are coming for America, for a better America. Just a few weeks ago, I joined volunteers to distribute meals to furloughed federal workers. They waited in line for a box of food and a sliver of hope since they hadn't received paychecks in weeks. Making livelihoods of our federal workers a pawn for political games is a disgrace. The shutdown was a stunt engineered by the President of the United States, one that defied every tenet of fairness and abandoned not just our people, but our values. For 7 years, I led the Democratic Party in the Georgia House of Representatives. I didn't always agree with the Republican speaker or governor, but I understood that our constituents didn't care about our political parties. They cared about their lives. So when we had to negotiate criminal justice reform or transportation or foster care improvements, the leaders of our state didn't shut down. We came together and we kept our word. It should be no different in our nation's capital. We may come from different sides of the political aisle, but our joint commitment to the ideals of this nation cannot be negotiable. Our most urgent work is to realize Americans' dreams of today and tomorrow, to carve a path to independence and prosperity that can last a lifetime. Children deserve an excellent education from cradle to career. We owe them safe schools and the highest standards, regardless of zip code. Yet this White House responds timidly, while first graders practice active shooter drills, and the price of higher education grows ever steeper. From now on, our leaders must be willing to tackle gun safety measures and face the crippling effect of educational loans, to support educators and invest what is necessary to unleash the power of America's greatest minds. In Georgia and around the country, people are striving for a middle class where a salary truly equals economic security. But instead, families' hopes are being crushed by Republican leadership that ignores real life or just doesn't understand it. Under the current administration, far too many hard-working Americans are falling behind, living paycheck to paycheck, most without labor unions to protect them from even worse harm. The Republican tax bill rigged the system against working people.
Yep.
Rather than bringing back jobs, plants are closing, layoffs are looming, and wages struggle to keep pace with the actual cost of living. We owe more to the millions of everyday folks who keep our economy running, like truck drivers forced to buy their own rigs, farmers caught in a trade war, small business owners in search of capital, and domestic workers serving without labor protections. Women and men who could thrive if only they had the support and freedom to do so. We know bipartisanship could craft a 21st century immigration plan, but this administration chooses to cage children and tear families apart. Compassionate treatment at the border is not the same as open borders. President Reagan understood this. President Obama understood this. Americans understand this. And Democrats stand ready to effectively secure our ports and borders.
No Republican watching.
But we must all embrace that from agriculture to healthcare to entrepreneurship, America is made stronger by the presence of immigrants, not walls. And rather than suing to dismantle the Affordable Care Act, as Republican attorneys general have, our leaders must protect the progress we've made and commit to expanding health care and lowering costs.
Which is trash and makes no difference because
my father
she did not say Medicare for all. She said lowering costs.
To help cover the cost, I found myself
this is a
sinking deeper
consensus
into
Democratic response.
Because while you can defer
it's
some
really
payments,
good, and I also have to say
defer
underlines
cancer
why it's useful Bernie
In
does
this
one
great
after her,
nation,
because there's going to be
Americans
things
are
that are not
skipping
going to
blood
be raised.
pressure pills, forced to choose between buying medicine or paying rent. Maternal mortality rates show that mothers, especially black mothers, risk death to give birth. And in 14 states, including my home state, where a majority want it, our leaders refuse to expand Medicaid, which could save rural hospitals, save economies, and save lives. We can do so much more. Take action on climate change. Defend individual liberties with fair-minded judges.
Provide universal
But none of these
free
ambitions are
healthcare.
possible without
Universal
the bedrock
free healthcare,
guarantee
universal free
of our
healthcare.
right to vote.
Universal job guarantee.
Let's be clear.
Yeah, but just
voter suppression is real.
keep in mind the
From
vast
making it
majority
harder
of people
to
who are
register
watching
and
this
stay on the rolls,
are
to
probably
moving
Trump
and
voters.
closing polling
Yeah.
places,
And that's
to
what this is
rejecting
geared
lawful ballots. We can no longer ignore these threats to democracy. While I acknowledge the results of the 2018 election here in Georgia, I did not, and we cannot, accept efforts to undermine our right to vote.
I like how she says
That's why I
acknowledge, not
started a
concede. She
nonpartisan
stated that.
organization
That's great.
called Fair Fight to advocate for voting rights. This is the next battle for our democracy, one where all eligible citizens can have their say about the vision we want for our country. We must reject the cynicism that says allowing every eligible vote to be cast and counted is a power grab. Americans understand that these are the values our brave men and women in uniform and our veterans risk their lives to defend. The foundation of our moral leadership around the globe is free and fair elections, where voters pick their leaders, not where politicians pick their voters. In this time of division and crisis, we must come together and stand for and with one another. America has stumbled time and again on its quest towards justice and equality. But with each generation, we have revisited our fundamental truths, and where we falter, we make amends. We fought Jim Crow with the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. Yet we continue to confront racism from our past and in our present, which is why we must hold everyone from the highest offices to our own families accountable for racist words and deeds, and call racism what it is: wrong. America achieved a measure of reproductive justice in Roe v. Wade, but we must never forget it is immoral to allow politicians to harm women and families to advance a political agenda. We affirmed marriage equality, and yet the LGBTQ community remains under attack. So, even as I am very disappointed by the president's approach to our problems, I still don't want him to fail. But we need him to tell the truth.
I can't be conciliatory on
and
that
to respect
line.
his duties.
I pray for him to fail.
And respect
that one
the
came from Nancy
extraordinary
Pelosi.
diversity
you want
that defines America
to fail, Michael?
Our progress
in a
has
certain
always been
sense.
found in the refuge,
I want Trump
in the
to,
basic
like,
instinct
literally
of the
advocate
American
for fail.
experiment, to do right by our people. And with a renewed commitment to social and economic justice, we will create a stronger America together. Because America wins by fighting for our shared values against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That is who we are. And when we do so, never wavering, the state of our union will always be strong. Thank you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Should have been in a garage like Kennedy last year.
Well, if that isn't the most vast contrast, I don't know.
It was good that they did it in front of a bunch of people too. I think like the worst is just sort of that sort of disembodied, like when they were when
they're
just
like
in like
sitting
a
in a
hallway.
I totally
or something.
forgot about the garage thing. It was like just bloodless.
And the other thing I like remembered was little Marco with his having to grab the water.
He looked such a beta. He looked so scared and little.
That was what led to
I
the
thought that
Trump
was a good
routine.
speech, and I think like the thing
But no
that
one remembers what he said.
no,
right?
I'm talking about.
Oh,
I'm talking
yeah.
about.
I
No,
agree.
Sam
I agree.
liked Marco's speech. He was defending.
I
him
loved
for
it. I loved his
years
speech. I thought it was great how he did it all with dry mouth. I thought that was one of the best parts.
That's brave.
No, I thought that the Abrams thing was, for the most part, rather. I mean, it wasn't. I wouldn't call it bold. It was a good speech that was delivered competently, and frankly, like that's the best case scenario. When you hear
For the Democrats, yeah.
Yeah.
well, yeah, of course. When you hear that 56% of the Democrats, which is the majority of people who are going to vote, at least towards the direction where we want the country to go, where they say they don't care about policy, they just want somebody who can beat Trump. And maybe that's overstating it, but nevertheless, that's where they landed on that question. The idea of delivering a competent speech that is somewhat optimistic, but points out the sort of the problems with the Trump administration. That's good. And
I really liked the voting rights stuff. I thought that was really strong and really important. And I like that she's maintained her stance relative to her election being stolen from her.
Well, that's the point, is that she's able to deliver a speech that can appeal beyond her wheelhouse, but not have to sell out any. There's nothing in that speech where you're like she's selling something out.
And it felt optimistic. I don't think there was any point in Trump's speech other than remember the astronauts, which felt aspirational, right? His thing has always been the immigrants are taking our jobs, they're killing us,
Even when he was saying like we're going to wipe out AIDS in 10 years, there was no sense
there was nothing
it was so
soaring.
begrudging.
Yeah, exactly. So like I'm far from a dyed in the wool, Dem, but that made me feel something at least, after an hour and a half of just
well, it was. I mean, it was literally like
jargon.
an actual human response to like a fascist mess. There is but also I don't think and she ran for governor in Georgia.
She'll absolutely run again, is what I take away from that.
And to be clear, like she did run as like a legitimate, and I think it's not our politics at all, but she was like an actual center-left candidate, which do exist, right? Like there's us and like the left, then there's these like Cuomo, Biden types we've been fighting forever, but then there's people like Stacey Abrams. Like I wish she would endorse Medicare for all, of course, but she didn't run on Medicare for all. She actually ran on a really aggressive healthcare expansion. She also did run on expanding union power in the South and in Georgia specifically, where it's like totally under siege. So that theme that she hit was Democratic consensus stuff, like I said before, and it was, just actually, in fact, very reflective of her. She's a bridge synthesis figure between different parts of the party, and that's what they needed to come out with tonight, in my view.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with everything you guys just said, but I think all of this stuff is necessary but insufficient. And that is a running theme with the Democratic Party. And I'm not just blaming it on Stacey Abrams. Like anyone who would have given that speech would have given necessary but insufficient. Like I thought the two choices were socialism and barbarism. And now there's this third thing, I don't know, third way, if you will. We're going to need a lot more than that.
Well, the problem is if the choice is just between socialism and barbarism, I'm not quite convinced that barbarism doesn't win. I mean, that's
barbarism.
I mean, it depends on what
barbarism
you.
is.
Trumpism is approaching barbarism,
it
right?
depends
It's been winning. Yeah.
It depends on what.
And the only way to fight it is socialism.
Well, but like I say, I'm not sure where those lines are drawn, but I think the reality is you have to look at the landscape and just see how far people are willing to go. I don't think that people engage that deeply, frankly, in ideology. And so we put a label on it, and it means different things to different people. But and there may, in fact, I think probably be more support for policies that we perceive as socialistic than the idea of socialism.
Sure, same thing.
But I'm talking about how you make the sale. I'm talking about politics, and for within the context of, you know, I don't know if you can go up there after that speech when you're talking, you know, a lot of people who are looking at that, probably a disproportionate, are people who really have no intention of voting for anybody but Donald Trump, or maybe
anyone with a D after their name.
So get specific then.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Like when you say people will go for socialistic policies, but not the idea of socialism, get specific, and that's the strength.
No, I'm speculating that they might, they may not, and they're
less
likely.
We saw in the midterms that people voted for socialistic policies even more than they voted for Democrats.
I don't know if that's true.
In a conservative state like Idaho, people voted for the Medicaid expansion who were not Democrats and did not identify as Democrats.
Medicaid expansion was the ACA. I mean, you know, it just depends on how you want. I mean, it was literally like Obama. And so, I mean,
or progressive policies more broadly.
Okay. I mean, like I said.
Well, she is progressive policies more broadly. So what we're trying to do, I do ultimately agree with socialism or barbarism, but part of that process is redefining what the center is and migrating it in the right direction. And that was a great example of actually how that's happening.
Well, and Sam, I was thinking about your point that she's going into this knowing that she's speaking mostly to Trump voters.
Right. She has two audiences, right? Like locally in Georgia, because that's where all the press is going to be paying attention to the fact she's doing it, and then basically Trump voters.
Right. So even though I totally agree with Jamie that this is hardly sufficient and doesn't go nearly far enough, I do think it achieves something important, which is speaking in a way that Trump did, speaking to average Americans know things are not good. Right? Like which Hillary Clinton's whole thing was America's already great.
Right.
Anyone who looks around knows no, it's not. And I think she addressed that in a really deft way while still striking an optimistic
and for whatever
tone.
worse, she pulled up another...
in a rhetorical way, I think it was a huge success. Obviously, policy-wise, I don't think it went nearly far enough to the left, but I think... You know, she had a hard task, and I think she managed to speak to people who might have been open to her at least acknowledging their reality.
The day that if she gets elected to a statewide office in Georgia, whether it's Senate or governorship, like things move to the left.
Of course.
And that's,
and everybody,
that is
because also just because of the coalition.
Well, that's why her candidacy was such a big
African Americans,
right? It wasn't
labor organizers. I mean, this is not only with Georgia moved to the left, the whole nature of the Southern Democratic Party and therefore American politics, which shifted to the left.
Of course.
Purely just through who'd be empowered through the people who worked to get her elected. And also, furthermore, it reminded me of something that I think actually definitely as socialists we need to take note that Bhaskar pointed out Friday, which is he was like, we need to both speak to people's real material needs and also advocate the actual radical solutions that need to take place, and then also respect the fact that there is a desire for a return to quote-unquote normalcy. And obviously people like us are like, fuck normalcy. We get it. We know that it's ridiculous. It's normal as hell.
That is my point.
We get all of that. But
and
that being said, there's still tens of millions of people that in their real conditions in life, that's what they want. But and she threaded a beautiful needle,
the choice,
I think,
synthesizing
is,
that. I think there is a choice. It's that do you hang it on rhetoric? Like, there's nothing she said that goes backwards.
Nope.
Right? Now,
Nope.
there may be a lot of
nor
instances.
vaults us particularly
No,
left.
it's
And I would
synthesized the
say,
present
for
moment.
the most part, there was nowhere where she was getting super aggressive and going forward, but there was nothing you said that set us backwards. The part that sets us going forward is not rhetorical in that instance. It's that she probably picked up some votes.
Yeah.
Like
Honestly-
she
Yeah.
came closer to whatever it is. Maybe it's winning the Senate in 2020 in Georgia, and that is going to pay dividends in terms of the actual policy versus any value she would get in pushing the rhetoric in that instance. And that's all my point is that, like, this entire evening is completely performative. And the
and
value,
very light on substance,
and
right?
very light on substance by design in many respects. Even those speeches historically that have been chock full of substance, really, it is just to project this idea, this broad notion of like, that was substantial.
Right.
As opposed to the actual substance. It's really just a branding exercise.
I see what you guys are saying, and I think it works for one of two groups, right? Because everybody in this country is pretty much on the side of the culture wars that they're going to be on. Democrats identify as Democrats, Republicans identify as Republicans. Most people are not going to change. The only place where I see any wiggle room is the small slice of working class swing voters, most but not all of whom are white, who might be more sympathetic to the kinds of rhetoric that you guys are talking about. I think they would also go for something like Medicare for all that's actually going to improve their lives. And then there's all the people who don't vote because either they're experiencing voter suppression, they work all the time, or they've just heard all of this stuff before and it's never done anything for them, and they don't believe that it's going to do anything for them in the future.
I think this is an essential argument, right? Though, like, I would say Stacey is moving people in the right direction, and hopefully then we hit them with things that look more like actual socialism.
Well, by the way,
I think she moves the first
This is
group.
another
As
argument.
opposed to, being more accelerationish, which, hit me on the right day and I'm right there too.
But this is also another argument. Like, I totally agree that there's some of those voters, particularly if you're going to just make it super narrow in electoral politics, in like places like Wisconsin, that are definitely like blue collar voters that need to be brought back. And incidentally, we all agree that we already know what the policy needs to be. But that being said, I mean, if we look at the poll, like, I just remember, I forget who did this, but there was that poll a year ago, and it's like, it's hard for us sometimes because liberals are annoying and we like to dunk on them and they're our near enemy at times and blah, 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 blah. But it was like, it was just a clear linear line. It was like, who's more likely to be flipped to hard left positions? And the most likely group to be flipped was liberals. It's not really that surprising. Like, for all of their shortcomings, they're the closest on the radar to us, and we're already in an electoral coalition with them. So ultimately, like, you need to get those voters back for sure. And it isn't just, it's just all working class voters across the board. But on the other hand, as far as a pool of people that I think you can migrate to leftward positions, it is actually a chunk of like wine moms who Stacey Abrams speaks to.
They do like AOC. So
What?
that gives me
I'm
hope.
less worried about the wine moms and more about, like white working class people. Bernie
And all of the
Bernie's
dog
the dude
whistle.
for that.
all of the
Bernie's
people who
You can
don't
worry
vote,
about
which
white
is a
working
much
class
larger
people, but if you're
group.
talking about Wisconsin, for instance,
It's all working
you're
class
talking
people.
almost 20% of the African American vote declined in 2016. Now
But that's all working class. I mean, I talked with Malika Jabali, who was on my
but
show.
they're
She
not
made a
white.
great
But
point of
definitionally, they're not white.
Well, no, and this is that's why I don't like this conversation, because she eliminated that. She's like, look, junk all that bullshit, because the neoliberals are going to say that this is not about unions and not about inequality, and I know you're not saying that, but that's totally wrong. And then on the other hand, to frame it as we need to get white people back in Wisconsin, she's like, fuck that. We could have gotten a neighborhood in Milwaukee of labor organizers and we win.
Yes.
And they didn't vote for the same reasons that we identify.
Well, I
In
understand.
addition to voter suppression.
In addition
right?
to voter suppression. She actually, what's interesting about that
They
piece,
didn't have a
she
reason to
actually
go and they weren't able
de-emphasizes
to
that.
go.
She actually de-emphasizes
Yeah,
that.
and
She
this
actually
is-
claims it's mostly policy. But I want to get away. I will never use, I don't want to racialize the working class at all.
Well, you don't
Class
have to
is
racialize it, but I didn't say
No, I'm not
get
saying
the white
I
working
agree.
class
I'm
back
not-
in Wisconsin.
I'm not saying
I
that.
did- that
I'm
was-
agreeing with you.
But okay, that's fine.
I'm agreeing
But
with you.
my
That's
point
great.
is
It's more
that
than
just came
fine.
up 3 minutes ago,
Yep.
and I could say you don't need a single white voter in Wisconsin
Working
to change their
class
mind for
is a-
2016. You need to get the same coalition of African Americans who voted in 2012 or in 2008, and that same percentage of the electorate, and you're done. You're talking about 10,000 people.
And she does a great, so yeah, and everybody, I would
But-
read The Color, it's called The Color of Income Inequality in Current Affairs by Malika Jabali, and she breaks this down really well. And she even has this one really intense, compelling quote of somebody who's like, look, it was, of course, we needed to elect Obama. It's historical. It's necessary. And now 8 years in, my economics are just as bad.
Right.
And I migrated from the South where I know Bill Clinton's a union buster. You got to do better than this.
Right.
And
Without a
and
doubt.
so we're all together
Yeah,
on that.
this is one of the things that I'm talking about, by the way, when I talk about how crisis of capitalism or this particular phase that we're in called neoliberalism leads to right-wing populism. People voting, like white people voting for Trump out of economic anxiety, that is the thing that I'm talking about the least when I say that. Voter suppression, it's not just a legal thing, it's an economic thing. Because when people see politicians saying the same stuff over and over again and they don't do anything for them, that's also a form of voter suppression. It's economic voter suppression, and that affects people across the board, but mostly the working class, which is disproportionately non-white.
Is Bernie coming on? Are we going to catch a few minutes, Bernie, or are we going to go to sweet, beautiful sleep? I want to see a few minutes of what he has to say if everybody's into it.
Yeah, let's check it out.
I mean, I will say I do think I think it's pretty obvious that I'm highly pro Abrams, but I do think that a great center left speech also, it's appropriate that there's a socialist speech as well. I think it was a great presentation, great speech, and there's other things to put on the table that he will.
I think someone took. I tweeted out credit where credit's due. Trump did acknowledge the Holocaust happened, and someone was like, "Well, that was the least he could do." I think someone took
it was
it
a lot for
seriously.
Got him.
Because I'm doing a copyright
For her
strike.
very, very effective response to President Trump's State of the Union. Now we, I think, all know why she would have been a wonderful governor of Georgia. I know that this will probably not shock you, but I hate to say this, but not everything Donald Trump said tonight was true or accurate. Tonight, when we talk about the economy, tonight and on numerous occasions since he has taken office, President Trump has told the American people that the U.S. economy is the hottest economy anywhere in the world. It is really booming. Well, that may be true for the members of his Mar-a-Lago Country Club, where the price of admission has doubled to $200,000. For those folks who go to Trump's club,
You guys have a
and for the
membership for the
wealthiest
show
people
yet? You
in
guys
our nation,
pop down there every
Trump
once in a
is
while?
right. The economy is really booming. In fact, for many of President Trump's billionaire friends, the truth is they have
A lot of
never,
hearts
ever
on
had
there.
it.
People
Let's
love
get those hearts
Bernie.
going.
But
Not
for
a
the middle
single
class
angry face.
and for the
Yeah, let's
working
get those
families
hearts.
of our country,
Let's get
the
those bits.
truth is
Bits for Bernie.
that the
Who said
economy is not so great. Over the last year, for example, real inflation accounted for wages for the average American worker is up by all of 1.2%, just $9.11 a week. In fact, real wages for that same worker, that average American worker, are lower today than they were in 1973. Let me repeat that. The average American worker, after adjusting for inflation, is earning less today than he or she did 46 years ago. despite huge increases in productivity.
Yep.
Sadly,
no one does that better
millions
in the
of
game than
American
him
workers
because
are
he's
now
cool
forced to work
grandpa
2
and
or
because he's
3
a
jobs
socialist.
Trump is telling
just
you
to pay the bills
about
and
historic
to keep
rates
their heads
of
above water
unemployment and about
economically.
wages being on the rise.
In America
Don't
today,
you
and
just-
somehow or another, President Trump didn't mention this in his speech. We have more wealth and income inequality than almost any major country on earth. And it is more unfair, more unequal now than at any other time since the Gilded Age of the 1920s. Yes, the economy is great for the 3 wealthiest people in America who own more wealth than the bottom half of our country, 160 million Americans.
Howard Schultz.
Yes, the economy is great for the top 1%,
Why isn't
who
he
now
doing a
earn
response?
46% of all new income in our economy. Yes, the economy is great for the top 25 hedge fund managers on Wall Street, who made nearly twice as much income last year as all 140,000 kindergarten teachers in our country. 25 hedge fund managers. Yeah.
Gulag.
The economy is great for the 5 richest people in America who have seen their wealth go up by over $100 billion since Trump was elected, and for corporations that have announced over $1 trillion in stock buybacks in 2018 alone. Yes, the economy may be great for those folks, but it is absolutely not booming for the nearly 80% of American workers who live paycheck to paycheck, desperately hoping that their child doesn't get sick, praying that their car doesn't break down, or that they don't lose their job. Despite what President Trump says, this is not a hot economy. When 43% of households can't afford to pay
mind-blowingly
for housing,
disgusting that this is the only
food,
frontline politician
childcare, healthcare,
who's talked about these things for decades.
And a cell phone without going into debt. That is not a hot economy for ordinary Americans. The economy is not booming when half of Americans 55 years of age and older have no idea how they will live out the last years of their lives with dignity because they have no retirement savings. And that includes, unbelievably, 20% of seniors trying to survive on incomes of less than $14,000 a year. And I just don't know how anybody, certainly not a senior citizen, survives on $14,000 a year.
Right.
This is not the strongest economy we have ever
Trump
had,
did talk about Syria.
according to Trump.
Yeah, he did.
When
He
hundreds
talked
of
about
thousands of young
did
people
he? I missed
are
that.
unable
It's
to go to
time.
college
He talked about
because
we've
they
beaten
can't afford it.
ISIS.
Yes.
And
I
millions
think that
more
means-
are struggling with
In
outrageous
case you
levels
missed
of
it,
student debt.
ISIS over.
When over 34 million Americans have no health insurance. When 1 out of 5 of our people cannot afford the medicine
This stuff
prescribed
really
to
does
them
actually
by
speak
their
to,
doctors.
like the
And
the
when over
media
40
bubble of
million
so many sorts, like
people
it's
in
just
our
like
country
you
are
know
living
almost
in
everybody coming from these middle
This
class
is
backgrounds
not
at
an
least.
economy
And
we should
you know,
be
I'll,
proud
look,
of.
I guess I'll play a little.
When
of my
we
own
have the
identity politics
highest
here. Like when he talks,
rate of childhood
I know
poverty
these
in the developed
experiences
world,
he's talking about from how I
and
grew
when
up,
life
like, quite personally,
expectancy
and
in the United States
I get really
has
pissed that
actually
that's
gone
totally
down
dismissed and
for the
run over in the
third
conversation.
year
It's like, oh yeah, that's just Bernie talking about stats
And as
again.
we
It's like,
No, he's
no,
saying something real.
That's actually
Let us
tens of
not
millions of
forget
people's real lives
that in America,
dealing with obscene
millions of our
situations.
People also like to play
are
rhetorical
working
games about like,
for
is he
starvation
emphasizing race or
$8 an hour,
class
$9
more?
an hour, $10
And it's
an
like,
hour.
well, I don't think he's ever
And here is
chosen.
the simple truth.
No.
I mean, he should talk about how they stole the election from Stacey Abrams in an extremely shady and white supremacist way.
He acknowledged that at the beginning, basically.
I didn't
a little
hear
bit.
Donald Trump talk about
Not in that strong of
raising
terms,
the minimum
But I
wage
actually think you're
to a
right, Jimmy.
living
Let's
wage
actually listen to what he
at least
said.
$15 an hour. Somehow didn't talk about that. Tonight, President Trump talked about what a great job he has done on trade. But what he forgot to tell you is that the annual trade deficit has gone up by over $100 billion since he became president. And our trade deficit with China and Mexico has gone up by tens of billions of dollars. Meanwhile, since Trump was elected, corporations have shipped 185,000 American jobs overseas. President Trump also talked tonight about the need to rebuild our country's crumbling infrastructure, our roads and our bridges and our water systems and our wastewater plants. And he is absolutely right. It is an absolute disgrace that in the wealthiest nation on earth we have an infrastructure that is crumbling. But the proposal that he is bringing forth is dead wrong. It is an absurd proposal. Trump would encourage states to sell our nation's highways, our bridges, and other vital infrastructure to Wall Street, to wealthy campaign contributors, even to foreign governments. The reality is that Trump's plan to privatize our nation's infrastructure is an old idea that has never worked and, in fact, never will work. President Trump said tonight, quote, "We are born free and we will stay free," end of quote. Well, I say to President Trump, people are not truly free when they can't afford to go to the doctor when they are sick. People are not truly free when they cannot afford to buy the prescription drugs they desperately need.
Right.
People are not truly free when they are unable to retire with dignity.
In your face,
People are not truly free when they are exhausted because they are working longer and longer hours for lower wages. People are not truly free when they cannot afford a decent place in which to live. People certainly are not free when they cannot afford to feed their families. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said in 1968, and I quote, "This country has socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for the poor," end quote.
Dead ass.
What Dr. King said then was true, and it is true today, and it remains absolutely
We need more rugged individualism everywhere.
Tonight, Donald Trump,
look at Howard
who in less than
Schultz's
2 years
common
in the White
sense
House
proposal
has seen 5 aides either plead guilty or be convicted of criminal charges, claimed the strength of the economy was dependent on him being free from necessary oversight and investigations into wrongdoing by both his campaign and his administration. The exact opposite is true. America's strength is based on the rule of law and the fact that no one, not even the President of the United States, is above it. Tonight, in terms of crime, Trump talked about a terrible and heinous murder in Reno, Nevada, committed by an undocumented immigrant who happens to be Latino. In fact, as I think many of you will recall, over the last several years, Trump has talked time and time again about crimes committed by undocumented Latino immigrants. His demonization of Latinos is nothing less than racist. It is wrong, and it also happens to be factually inaccurate. Undocumented Latino immigrants commit fewer crimes in the United States than the general public. But I want you to think about something for a moment. Isn't it strange that when we talk about terrible crimes committed in the United States or in the state of Nevada, Donald Trump forgot to mention that in 2017, a white man named Stephen Paddock killed 58 people and wounded 851 in the deadliest shooting in modern American history. That also happened in Nevada. Now, how come Trump didn't mention that? If he is concerned about crime, how come Trump didn't talk about one of the worst mass murders in American history?
So racist.
Needless to say, he also didn't mention the need for common sense gun safety legislation, which would lower the terrible rate of mass shootings in our country.
Oh, he's definitely running for president.
Tonight, Donald Trump repeated some of the most extreme anti-woman attacks coming from the far right. At a time when we see an unprecedented and coordinated attack against a woman's right to choose, it is incredibly important that we fight to make sure that every woman in this country has the right to control her own body.
He's choking up. Get it.
Tonight, Donald Trump correctly talked
Marco.
about the need to address
Polo.
the opioid crisis. Well, President Trump, you don't help people suffering from opioid addiction by writing a budget which calls for $1 trillion cut to Medicaid. That would be a devastating moment in the fight against opioid addiction. Now, as important as it is to respond to what President Trump said tonight, it is even more important to discuss some of what Trump refused to talk about, which happens to include some of the most important issues facing our country and the entire world. Now, how can a president of the United States give a State of the Union speech and not mention, not one word, about climate change when the leading scientists of the world tell us that climate change is real, that climate change is caused by human activity, and that climate change is already causing devastating harm in the United States and in much of the world? Further, the scientists tell us that we have a very short 12 years, not a lot of time, in order to transform our energy system away from fossil fuels and into energy efficiency and sustainable energy, if we are going to have a planet that is healthy and habitable for our children and our grandchildren. Somehow or another, Donald Trump just forgot to talk about that. Trump also forgot to discuss the international embarrassment of the United States being the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a right. Now, how can he ignore the fact that we spend far more per capita on health care than any other country on earth, while at the same time tens of millions of our fellow Americans are uninsured or underinsured? Somehow or another, Trump forgot to get to that issue. How can President Trump not discuss the terrible attacks that we are seeing to undermine the fundamentals of American democracy, which includes the disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision that allows billionaires to buy elections? Trump talked a lot about freedom tonight, but somehow or another, he didn't talk about governors' efforts all across this country, governors who are trying to suppress the vote and make it harder for poor people or people of color to vote. You can't talk about freedom in America and ignore the massive amounts of voter suppression taking place, denying people the right to participate in our democracy. Donald Trump talked about the economy, but he forgot to mention the fact
about the Holocaust,
that state after state is doing the right thing and is raising the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. But I didn't hear President Trump say that he would work with me and with other advocates of a living wage to raise the minimum wage at the federal level to $15 an hour. Somehow didn't get into that. How could President Trump not mention the word
Somehow he failed
Social
again.
Security, Medicare,
Being
or
a
Medicaid
fucking moron.
in his State of the Union speech when he promised over and over again during his campaign, you remember that? That he would not cut these programs. Could it be because his budget proposed massive cuts to Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security in direct violation of his campaign pledge? How could Trump not talk about the reality that Russia, through cyber warfare, interfered in our election in 2016, is interfering in democratic elections
good
all
luck with
over
the Russia
world?
people.
And now let me
according
do
to the
an
head
impression
of
of
his
Rachel
open
Maddow.
I don't think you're
national
gonna win them
Russia,
over.
Russia,
They don't want
attempted
you.
to interfere in the
Jill Stein
2018
is a Russian
midterm
agent,
election.
so I don't.
She would be
It's a
so
good
much
try.
How
cooler
can the
if she was a
president
Russian
say
agent.
nothing about
Jill
Yemen,
Stein was a Russian agent.
where the
I have a lot of
humanitarian
respect for her.
crisis where the worst humanitarian crisis in the world is currently taking place, brought on by a
droning the shit
Saudi-led
out of it.
war that the United States is supporting. And just yesterday, a CNN report detailed how our Saudi and Emirati allies have been giving U.S.-made weapons to al-Qaeda-linked fighters
You know,
in
he's
Yemen,
so good on this.
and have
He's-
also
you can tell
fallen
he's
into
really
the hands
digging
of
in 'cause he just
Iranian-backed
pronounced
Houthi rebels.
Emirati pretty well.
This war is a
Couple of months
disaster.
ago,
Well, that was one of the
which
major-
is why the
Emirati.
That
Senate
was one of the
passed
major
a
criticisms
resolution
of him in
that I
2016,
sponsored
right?
last
It's like
December,
no foreign policy
calling on the
dropped, so-
president
I mean,
to
he's
end
been
our
very
support
visibly
for that
beefing
terrible
up on
war.
this.
Totally.
And why
And a lot of that
colleagues
was
in both
bullshit.
the House and the Senate
But I mean,
reintroduced
he's
that
on point, though. I
legislation
mean, he's
last week.
talked- he's-
This is an
this
enormously
legislation,
important
the work on
foreign
Brazil.
policy issue. It speaks to our relationship with a despotic regime in Saudi Arabia. Somehow Trump forgot to mention that. President Trump has stated tonight and over and over and over and over again that building a wall on the Mexican border is a national emergency. In fact, he shut down the government and caused enormous pain and uncertainty for some 800,000 federal employees who were forced to go to work but were not paid, all because of his insistence on that wall. No, President Trump, building a wall is not an emergency. In terms of immigration in this country, what we need to do is not to waste billions of dollars on a wall, but to finally address the need for comprehensive immigration reform, including a path to citizenship for millions of undocumented people. It is inhumane and not what America stands for, that tiny children at the border have been torn apart from their parents. It is disgraceful that 1.8 million young people raised in the United States and who know no other country but the United States have lost their legal protection under the DACA program because of Trump's actions. It is heartbreaking that almost 11 million undocumented people living in this country, the overwhelming majority of whom are hardworking and law-abiding, worry every day about being deported and separated from their loved ones. What a president of the United States is supposed to do, and I think in a certain sense almost all presidents in recent history have understood that, is that when you're president, you bring our people together, whether they're black or white or Latino, whether they're Asian American, Native American, whether they're men or women, whether they're gay or straight.
This is my Obama impression.
That's what a
This is
president
my
is
Obama.
supposed
I'm
to
doing a fucking Obama impression.
But
You
in
people
an
vote for me already so I can
unprecedented
give you
way.
health care?
That
the
is
fuck
not
more do I have to
what
do
this
for the
president
goddamn
is
electorate?
doing. In fact, he is trying to divide us up.
Fucking
He is
wine
trying to have one group turn against another group. And that is certainly not what this country is supposed to be about.
Except for
Trump
the
said
millionaires
tonight
and the billionaires.
that we should, quote, govern not as two parties, but as one nation. I agree. But Trump's agenda of providing
People are gonna
tax
try
breaks to
and make the
billionaires
water bottle thing
while
happen
throwing
tomorrow.
millions
It's not
of
gonna
Americans
I
off
don't
of
think
health
just get a
insurance
mug.
is the exact
I know,
opposite
well, yeah, it makes a
of what the
sound.
American
That
people
isn't
Can't you
want.
just have
for
a?
it.
If Trump
It's
truly
the year
wants
of our
to
Lord
govern in a
2019,
bipartisan
we still
manner,
can't figure out the most
let's
effective
take
way
a
to
look
give a speaker
at
a
what the
glass of
overwhelming majority of the American people want. In other words, I know this is a
vehicle to
radical
deliver the
idea,
water to your
but I
face.
say to the
Also,
President
not
of the
very
United States,
eco-friendly,
why
Mr.
don't you
Climate
do
Change.
what the American people want you to do rather than what wealthy campaign contributors
Why not a
want?
mug that says
Let me
like,
give you some
power to the
examples.
people, or just something
A Fox
fun.
News
exactly.
poll
Right? Like just
conducted last
I
month
hate
shows
Mondays,
that 70%
boss-
of Americans
boss bitch,
support a
maybe?
tax
Democracy
increase
Now.
on
Democracy.
families
the
making
moms.
over
Ask the
10 million.
moms.
According to Reuters,
That's
70% of the American people, including 52% of Republicans, support
So Bernie's excellent.
Medicare
Can we go
for
home?
all. They understand that the current health system is not working, and they want to join every other country on earth in making
I think a
health care
shorter
a right,
speech would have
not
been
a privilege.
warranted at this time.
Another poll
Kind
found
of.
that 72% of the American
trying
people,
to
including
overshadow
51% of
Stacey
Republicans,
Abrams.
Yeah, it's
want
just
to
like, I gotta keep
expand
talking. A black woman
Social
spoke
Security
before
benefits.
me. More water.
Must
Make
overshadow.
sure
Must
that
overshadow
our elderly people
white
can
working
retire in
class
dignity
in Wisconsin.
and do that
More
by
bottled
increasing
water.
taxes on millionaires and billionaires. According to Gallup,
I'm gonna do 4 hours.
76%
He's
of
trying to make up for the
including
fact
large
that the
majorities
taxing
of
the
Republicans
rich
and
game
Democrats
has kind of been cornered
want us
very
to
recently
spend
by
$1
Elizabeth
trillion on an
Warren's tax
infrastructure plan
and
to
AOC.
create up to
So he's
15 million
coming in and
good-paying
being
jobs.
like, don't forget,
The Kaiser
I'm
Family
great on this
Foundation has
too.
found
I
that
also think, honestly, I think
92%
it's simple
of
on some
the
Americans
OG.
level. I think
want
that
Medicare to
he is the OG,
negotiate
and I think it's also
with
I also
pharmaceutical
interpret a lot of
companies
moves
to
like
lower
him
prescription
talking
drug
longer
prices.
than he needs to late at
92%.
night as
That same
basically
poll
being
also
like,
found
I'm an
that
incredibly
72%
robust
of
and healthy
Americans, including
77-year-old.
three-quarters of Republicans,
I'm gonna remind you
want
again and
the
again and
freedom to
again
buy
that
low-cost
you're
prescription drugs
exhausted,
from
and
Canada.
I'm talking about the millionaires.
Gallup
and
tells us that
billionaires,
64%
divided
of
by the
Americans,
millionaires, the billionaires.
including 51% of Republicans, believe marijuana should be legal. And that tells me that we should end the disastrous war on drugs. Quinnipiac tells us that Americans support by over 94%, requiring background checks for all gun purchases. CBS has found that 87% of Americans, including 79% of Republicans, want to allow immigrants who are brought to the United States as children to stay in our country. And according to a July 2018 survey paid for by the Koch brothers, 66% of Americans believe, quote, government-paid college tuition is an effective solution to social barriers. 65% of Americans believe that a $15 minimum wage is an effective solution to low wages. 69% of Americans believe that we need more regulation of Wall Street. And 69% of Americans also believe we should be increasing government assistance for child care.
Bring us home.
My fellow Americans, if the overwhelming majority of Americans want us to pass these enormously popular initiatives,
I'm not.
Why can't Congress pass them?
He's going to go shoot some
Why
hoops after
isn't
this.
Congress and the White House doing what the American people want them to do? And the answer, frankly, is not complicated. The answer has everything to do with the power of the moneyed interests. Wall Street, big drug companies, huge health insurance companies, the fossil fuel industry, multinational corporations in the billionaire class. All of these groups are spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to get Congress to do their bidding. But while they may have the money, and God only knows they have an endless supply of money, we have something that is more powerful on our side, and that is that we have the people. They have the money, we have the people. If we are serious about transforming our country, if we are serious about rebuilding the shrinking middle class, if we are serious about reinvigorating our democracy and increasing voter turnout and bringing young people into the political process, let us bring our people together to take on and defeat a ruling class whose greed is destroying our nation. The billionaire class must learn that they cannot have it all. Our government belongs to each and every one of us, not just the few. Together, let us fight for economic, social, racial, and environmental justice. Let us end unbridled greed.
Please announce.
Let us create the kind of America
not right now.
that
Jesus
we know
Christ.
we can become.
Classic
Thank you all,
bro move.
and have a great night.
Good job, Dad. A
good.
little more concise next time, but
No, I'm
So,
telling
that was
you,
good.
he's just showing you how healthy he is. Just showing
He
you
wants
how
to
healthy-
show that he can do.
That's what I'm saying. He's
a lot.
77 years old. He's like, I've got energy.
Stamina.
Right.
He
That's
is
what he's doing,
So
yeah.
old though, man.
All right. Well,
Oh, fuck you, Kat.
Socialism or barbarism. That's how it's going to be. You can vote for a third thing, but you're still going to get barbarism in the end if you don't support socialism.
there you go, folks. Take it or leave it.
That's a beautiful note. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
And
Correct.
on that note, we're going to end our coverage for tonight. We will be back tomorrow, not live, but with new content. Katherine Krueger, thank you so much for joining us.
Such a pleasure.
Really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
People should check out Splinter News, where you manage to edit.
I do both of those things. Yeah, I manage every day a little bit.
Are you the manager?
Managing editor. Yep.
Are you still being sued by that Trump aide, or is that over?
I sure am. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, we
shit.
will not discuss that.
Nope.
I would imagine
We'll
that
not
is-
discuss that on the mic, but that is on an ongoing legal matter.
Well, I mean, you tune in to the Splinter News. You never know when that's going to crop up, right? I mean, that's
Let me just say,
Here's
no
hoping.
chin. No chin. That's my only comment. No chin.
all right, folks. We will see you tomorrow-ish.
Sort of.
Oh, wait a second. Well, no, let's play this in
Play
the.
this out?
I was thinking of playing it. Yeah, okay. Let's play this out. This is from.
Was this fan music?
This is
the Zero Sum Rave State of the Union remix, which
by Flayla.
By Flayla, which was produced 14 minutes ago. So at about
Incredible.
'All right, let's see how they
11:20.
did.
Let's hear it.
My stroke is complete.
It's 4 minutes, so you might want to sign off, and then we can listen to the rest
Actually,
of it.
All right, folks.
It's growing on me a little.
We'll see you
We need some glow sticks.
See you tomorrow, guys. Thank you.
About the history of capitalism.
Where are you calling from? This little chestnut. Start begging for your mommy and your daddy. This is a zero-sum game.